So, welcome everyone. Welcome to the Adventure in the Forgotten Realms draft archetype breakdown. We've been doing this for a couple of sets now. We're going over the different archetypes that are in the set. We'll discuss what cards we think are strong, what cards we think are yeah standing out, let's say, or fit well in the archetype. How it works, you'll see. We'll go over most of it. I'm happy to have three guests to do it with. Sierkovitz, you probably all know him. The name is Pawel. He's been on sources a couple of times. He also streams since quite recently, right, Sierkovitz?
Like 3 weeks, maybe.
How's that going for you?
I respect streamers much more.
I had the same experience when I tried it out. Yes.
It's
Definitely.
going well, I think. I mean, it's going decent, and I started on a completely boring part of the season, so I'm looking forward to actually stream something that's relevant.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Okay, yeah, we also have Maxwindiff on. Max, good to have you back. Most famous, I guess, for being a developer on 17 Lands, I would say.
Yep, I think so. We have done a bunch of work to try to get it working for the replace working on day one. Hopefully, it works, but let's see.
Yeah, curious. I really like the recent future where I can real life check into my drafts and see what's missing from the packs and stuff like that. That makes me do a lot less screenshotting during the drafts, I need to admit.
Exactly the goal.
Because I was doing that feature on my own basically when I was drafting by making screenshots of the first like 4 or 5 packs, so that saved me a lot of work. Yeah, and Jason, good to have you back as well. Our trophy leader, grinder, like the actual person who knows about limited out of the four of us. So yeah, good to have you here, I would say.
I think you're selling me a bit high here. Like,
Or as low. I mean, I don't know.
yeah, both of those. Like, we're all pretty good at limited here.
True, but you were like above 80% win rate, right? And I don't think
Not above 80.
Okay.
Like almost 80% win rate in like best of 3, but the best of 3 is also easier.
That's true. So I've been looking at the win rates a bit lately, and what I noticed is that so maybe just a short outside of Adventure in the Forgotten Realms discussion, right? So do you feel that game win rate in best of 3 compares to best of 1 win rate? Basically you're playing 3 best of 1s, right?
But
yeah, but it won't.
But also the opponents are weaker generally, so that's a big factor.
Okay, that's a good one.
The general rule is draft pods are stronger. Players who play are weaker if you are a mythic level player.
I don't know about draft pods being stronger. Last night I got a pack 3, pick 7 Approach of the Second Sun.
Yeah, but I mean, come on, we're playing now at the graveyard shift in the graveyard factory. I mean, but I mean, I followed some data from how people caught up with them. I think that in best of 3, Variant Books became the top blue common in 11 days earlier than in best of 1. That's the gap that there is between the two types of pods.
Yeah, I saw that tweet. I kind of like that one.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the guests, and yeah.
Oh wait, we have humble brags from NCAA, only under 80%. I'm sure that the NCAA they have probably 82 or 83, knowing live.
I remember them being pretty high up the leaderboard at some point, but I don't remember their win rate.
If memory serves, yeah.
Looks like 81.7% on 17 Lands best of 3.
Nice. That is sweet, NCAA. Congrats on that. Okay.
It's still not a trophy leader, so you know, I mean.
Yes, you need
swings and roundabouts.
Play a lot to be a trophy leader, I noticed. Holy shit. Yeah, so let's dive in. I'm happy to have you all three here. And I know time is scarce, so let's dive in and see what we think of the set. So before we do, we always do this credit where credit is due page. Like a lot of content creators are creating a lot of great content that most of us consume. If I'm not mistaken, so happy to shout out all these great people. The slide deck is available via !slides, by the way, if I'm not mistaken. See slides, slide deck. Please be slide deck. Oh jeez. Well, yes. So the slides are available, so feel free to check that out and follow the links to all the great content that is available. Okay, so today we're doing draft skeletons, or at least we're talking about them. So in preparation of the stream, we did build skeletons, and when we build skeletons, we confine to a certain set of rules that we discussed among each other. Basically to make sure that we're not building like the best deck in block constructed, but that we're building reasonable draft decks that you'll be able to draft at the draft table, I would say. So to do that, we include 0 to 2 rares, we include 0 to 8 uncommons, and we do no duplicates there, so only 1 of each. And the rest of the deck is basically commons, where we allow 2 of each common, and we allow 6 commons to be duplicated at a maximum. So that forces us to include different cards that we feel are suited for the archetype. Same guidelines go for non-basic lands. So for example, Evolving Wilds, that is in this set, we're only allowing to include 2 of those, and the rest of the mana basics, we're able to include them freely. Thanks everyone for being here, being in the chat, being active. I'm sure that some of us can reply to questions in chat and stuff, but we'll not reply to questions via voice too much to keep this rolling and keep it pace, basically, because we have quite some content to cover. In Strixhaven we only had like 5 archetypes, let's say, because we only had 5 colleges. Here all 10 of the archetypes seem pretty playable, so we're going over each of them. Means that there's a lot of stuff to go about, so let's go for it. If you're interested in our draft archetypes, we also included a slide that has a link to each of our skeletons, basically. And if you want to build along, there's also a sealed deck link there that also gives you basically a setup sealed deck environment where you have 2 of each common and 1 of each uncommon, that you can very easily build your own archetype skeletons. We highly recommend it. It's a great way of learning the set, basically, and figure out yourself what cards are strong where, and what cards combine very well. As you can see, we were not able to build all of the skeletons. Normally we do, but due to Wizards having some problems with spoiler season, the set was released like yesterday. So we actually had 1 day to build the skeletons.
I mean, I think, Sander, for us it was today probably,
yes,
because
for us
it must have been
today.
something like
it
3 in the morning or...
It wasn't out yesterday indeed, so that was interesting.
Yeah, and there were quite a few important comments among the things that had yet to be spoiled. Like 2 of the best comments,
probably 2 best comments were released in the common dump, because why not?
Yeah, like a red removal spell that's pretty efficient, a white 3 drop that was kind of good. Yeah, stuff like that. Yeah, definitely, and we'll go over those later on.
Best common in the set, Story Seeker, also.
Yep, Story
Seeker.
Yeah,
always. The worst common in the set, 4 mana black removal spell.
And it also gives you a treasure, right? That card is pretty good. Yeah, okay. So before we dive into the archetypes, we want to cover some big picture stuff. So we'll go through the most important mechanics, starting off with dungeons, and then we'll also go over like our top commons for each color, so that we have sort of a baseline before we start building the archetype skeletons. Dungeons. First big point: it's impossible for an opponent to interact with your dungeon progress. So if you do this in Commander or in Constructed, there are probably cards that like counter a triggered ability or stuff like that. But in this limited environment, there's no way for your opponent to prevent you from going through your dungeon, basically. Which is good. right? It's good in one sense, but it reminds a bit, and I know a lot of people have said this, of things like energy, for example, which is also one of these resources that your opponent could hardly interact with, and this feels a bit similar. Right? Venturing into the dungeon seems to be a pretty costly affair, mana-wise, when you do it with creatures that, yeah, you can put some mana in and then venture. So I personally am not a big fan of those, but I do like the cards that come with a venture on enter the battlefield or attack or yeah, other instances. Yeah, there's the dungeons offer quite some different bonuses, and some of those bonuses fit very nicely in various archetypes. For example, life gain, you can get a treasure from it, you can get a goblin from it, skeletons, and these are all supported, let's say, archetypes throughout the set. But that's interesting that the dungeons are not just value generation, but they also fit in the archetype and work with the archetypes that are in the set. There are 3 dungeons. We showed them here. You've probably seen them quite a lot by now. But basically the flavors are, if you're going to venture very rarely, the Lost Mine of Phandelver seems pretty good. You're already getting a token after 2 ventures. And if you venture through, you're getting a 1/1 counter, which is quite good. And then if you manage to venture 4 times, you draw a card. But I think it's the best dungeon to go in if you don't expect to venture a lot. If you're pretty sure you're going to venture 4 times and being able to get the 4/4, and you also want to kill your opponent at some point in time, then I think the Tome of Annihilation is pretty good. And if
it might be also like good with the black-green, because that has a theme, sort of, no?
Yeah, definitely.
Also, shoutouts to being a stock outlet for Steel and Zack, possibly.
Yep, as well. We'll cover that later on a bit as well. Yeah, and we're going to, if you're going to venture a lot and you're planning for a long game, which you will do in most of the Asper color combinations, I assume, then Dungeon of the Mad Mage is where the real value is, I would say, right?
Yeah, you might plan a lot, but Naya is going to just roll you over.
Yeah, I'm personally not totally sold on Mad Mage. I feel like it might just be better to go through Lost Mine of Phandelver twice than go through Mad Mage once. But okay. We'll see.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, I mean, if you have completion bonuses, then definitely better to go twice because you get them much quicker.
Yeah. Another interesting new mechanic or card type is class. So classes are generally a very cheap place that allow you to spend some more mana over time to gain value. Most of the first modes, so basically the level 1s, are pretty archetype or mechanic specific. So if you're in that archetype, for example, the barbarian class allows you to get a bonus when you roll a dice. You get to roll an additional dice and you ignore the lowest roll. That's obviously very good if the thing you're doing is dice rolling, and it's obviously useless if you have 1-0 dice rolling cards in your deck. So and most of the classes are set up like this, where the level 1 is either very good or pretty useless. And pumping mana in a class is pretty scary while the enchantment removal running around. So yeah, the pro tip there is to be careful and don't go all out when it comes to the leveling of the classes, I would say. Yeah, the uncommon classes are generally pretty playable. They seem fine, and there are some rare classes that are actually very good and might be some of the better cards in the set. And I think Ranger class is a very familiar card, most of us, because it's a pretty good semblance of Sparring Regiment. So that's going to be a nice one. Anything to add, guys?
I think I'm generally lower on most of the uncommon classes. Like the blue one's kind of a divination. The red one seems pretty good if you have a lot of die rolling. But like black, white, and green uncommon ones seem pretty slow and anemic. I don't know.
I had
Obviously,
green in the live game.
ones are busted.
So I think that green can be playable in the live game deck because it actually is a very reproducible source of live game.
Yeah, that's fair. And it does make like a 6/6 at the end or something.
Oh, I don't even care about the 6/6. Just like every land is 1 life, and if you have like a couple of the unicorns and the signposts uncommon, and maybe even the white class that would work with it, that also gives counters on anything that you want for any live game trigger. That's like land playings is just
some nice double class action going there. I don't know. I think that like I don't know, Nectar Pod in Zendikar was fine, but like I think the 1/3 body was important there. I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, you didn't have like a Johnny's Pride Mate in Zendikar.
That's fair. Wait, but okay, not in green. I guess I don't know. I think
I did play the green black clerics in Zendikar, and Nectar Pots were busted in there.
Okay. Well, we'll see. We'll see how it plays out.
Again, they're playable. None of them are outstanding, I would say.
Fine. Yeah.
Okay, big picture creature sizing and removals. Yeah, so Fury Efficient instant removal spells, especially is common, especially up to today when Dragon's Fire got spoiled, and also the black removal got spoiled. I think before that the removal was very scarce, but we got some nice additions today. Enchantment based removals are back, so 1 in blue, 1 in white. Be careful with those because there's quite some enchantment removal running around. So
there's also 1 in black, but the black enchantment removal is, as always, the most reasonable one, and it kills things.
Oh yeah, indeed. It'll probably be off the battlefield before you're able to remove it.
But I mean, this is why enchantment removal is rubbish, but in black it's good.
Okay, yeah, there are lots of X3s in the set. Anything to add here, guys? Just checking in if there's something to add before we, I think, dive into some of the top comments. You want to take this, Jason?
I was just gonna say for the removal, I do think that with Dragon's Fire and the black kill spell make a treasure, like the removal looks definitely like more average than poor now. But I don't know. We'll see how it lines up.
Yeah. I think that it's maybe not super interactive in terms of lots of the things that are good at killing are not instant or super expensive.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, there's not much like instant speed stuff. There's no Barian bucks heated.
I guess, yeah.
You have the red deal 3, but like that's mostly it. And I guess the white deal 5. But yeah, so for top white commons, white is a really deep color, I think. You have, I think the best commons are definitely going to be the 2 in the white 2/1 ETB draw a card, gain a life, and the 2 mana 2/2 lifelink. Currently, I have Priest of Ancient Lore as the top common over Story Seeker reprint. I think it's called Steadfast Paladin. But like I could see it in fact going the other way because there's so many equipment. I know NCAA is on that. Also, the 3/4 Venture seems like just a really solid rate. Like it reminds me kind of like Packmate. If you think about it, right, the first if you're just going through like Lost Mine of Delver, the first trigger is just 3/4 scry 1 for 4. That's fine, not exciting. Then you get 3/4 make a 1/1. That's like really good rate. 3/4 put a +1/+1 counter on something, or like that could just be a 4/5. That's also really good rate. And then 3/4 draw a card is obviously like great. So like it's just like just a bit above rate at like in all possibilities, and like it's just probably going to be a really solid card. And then there's the 3 in the white 2/3 flying ETB, give something +1/+1 and flying until end of turn. We saw this in M21. I forget what set it was. Gale Swooper, kind of.
Yeah, it was M21.
Except Gale Swooper was a 3/2, but didn't give +1/+1. So this is like slightly less aggressive on its own stats, but like the +1/+1 it gives does like help push more damage. So overall,
also, I mean, we have to keep in mind that this is like an equipment set, so it might give flying to something massively bigger than the small things in M21.
Yeah, like I'm looking. Yeah, giving flying to a 2/2 lifelink with +2/+2 equipment on it seems pretty strong. You swing for 5 lifelink in the air, and like this also holds equipment pretty well, so that's pretty good. Then like after those 4, I think those 4 are probably going to be the top 4 white commons. But after that, there's just a bunch of solid cards, like more even beyond the slide, like Ranger's Hawk, just a 1/1 flyer that holds equipment. The 3/1 for 2 also holds equipment pretty well. It becomes a 3/3 if it has equipment attached. The removal spell seems pretty solid. It solves the problem of like not being good on offense by like having a mode where it is good on offense. So you either deal 5 to an attacker, which is good on defense, or you give +1/+1 to your team, which is good if you're being aggressive. And then like the 5 mana 3/3 flyer, I'm not super convinced on this, but I think some other people liked it.
Yeah, I kind of liked it.
Yeah, like it does give you a repeat adventure, and it is an attack trigger, not a combat damage trigger. So it's harder to prevent.
But it also dies to the 2 mana removal, unfortunately. That's what stresses me about this card, like to invest 5 mana in it.
Yeah. The 3/4 at least is not like I think X4 will be like fine body. I think X5 in this format will like be where you really want to be for blocking, but X4 will still like block decently well.
I mean, there's just like this massive amount of 2 mana 3/1s that you have to deal with, and that's why I definitely would prefer a 3/4 than the 4/3.
Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe to repeat, Jason, because you already had to you had to convince me earlier today about the value of venturing, right? And Zagagan in chat is saying similar things, where we should look at venture as a average of the different modes basically, and not as the first mode, which is mostly the most poor mode out of the options, right? So it is as an average of the entire dungeon.
So basically, you're trying to convince me that a veteran dungeoneer is 4 mana, sacrifice 1/3 of a creature, 1/3 of a land, 1/3 of an artifact, discard a card, and get a 1.3, 1.3 Death Toucher.
Exactly.
Yes,
exactly.
That's what it's doing. Yeah, that's its expected result. And then
don't forget, each player loses 1/3 of a life.
I like the 1/3 of a Death Toucher because that's pretty strong.
I mean, it's that's why it's so hard to evaluate those cards, because I mean the path that you choose in which dungeon you go and how you venture is just going to be so complicated.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, maybe Steve is making a good point, where the earlier modes should maybe have a bit more weight because you're going through them for sure.
Mm-hmm.
You'll end up in the later levels less likely, let's say. So maybe there's like a weighted average, definitely, but still, I think it's good to take the further modes.
Yeah, I think we can do something like with the roll the dice cards. That basically you treat the baseline as the first mode, because that's probably going to be the most, well, first of all, the one that you have to calculate that you're going to always have to take somehow. And then the rest is a bonus, no? I mean, you count that this bonus exists and it will happen a percentage of the time, just don't count on it always happening.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can also maybe look at this like more in context of, is this really going to be the first venture creature you play? Like maybe your plan is like me to play. You find a cursed idol on turn 2 to make a treasure and scry 1, and then play this on turn 3 to make a 3/4 and a 1/1. I think that could be a valid strategy, and like I think it's worth looking at those kinds of curves to see like, oh, how do I expect this to play into my game plan, and like evaluate where you think you'll be in the dungeon at that point.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, let's move on to blue. Anyone feels strongly about this? Wants to share thoughts?
I mean, since I'll be talking about the roll the dice archetype, I think that how blue was built is actually a downfall of that archetype in draft, because actually Pixie Guy looks like a very strong common in all the archetypes, so it's going to be stolen from the blue-red from every single side. Maybe not in the first couple of weeks, but people will get to it. the stat line of a 1/3 flyer that carries, any potential equipment in blue-white, for example, very well. Rolls are still relevant in green-blue, so there will be a movement towards there. That's, I think, definitely going to work. Now, Sign of Stygia is a card that I'm scared of playing initially, unless I get my Pixie Guides, because the difference between 3 mana flash Frostlinks and a 3 mana flash I tap one thing, whatever, Twiddle. Was it Twiddle that tapped the thing? Yeah. Is a big difference. So I'm a bit worried that without a help for rolling the dice better, this card is not going to be so great. Because first of all, it would be okay to play it in a sort of tempo-y deck that has something else to do, like Bardigate, for example. I keep Bardigate. If they don't play the creature, I can play the Sign of Stygia and tap something and keep it tapped for at least a turn extra. But because I don't have that guarantee, I'm not sure if I want to do it. I still think that there is a particular density of 3-4 mana instants and flash spells that maybe it will be some kind of a tempo deck. But I just don't know if it's going to be like the top common, although I'm definitely going to try to make it so in the first weeks. Now, Bardigate, and I actually don't also mind the cancel version that they have right now. I think that these are decent cards because you can play this sort of keep the mana untapped because you have other options to play at instant in the format. But I think that the combination of hard countering a creature, which this format is probably going to be very creature based, and removal in blue is not very permanent, and there is plenty of enchantment removal traveling. I think Bardigate is like a very solid response for those later bombs or like more expensive things like a dragon. So you can keep it for later game and make sure that you exclude the very powerful threat and basically take over the game. The card I'm super excited about, and not everyone is the 5 mana 4/5 ward guy. I think that the stat line of this creature and the cost align very well with the format. It's like 5 mana, unkillable almost thingy that will block you well, and then maybe at some stage you're just gonna put fly on it, like in the good old days. You put the flying on the for something hexproof creature and you just kill them. Only this time when you put fly, they become slightly bigger and they start venturing every turn that they attack. So I can see that those games are going to be happening, and it's going to be like a throwback to Dominaria on this time with better mechanics, because ward is at least you can do something with it as an opponent. So that's one card, and I don't like the 3/2 for 3 mana that much. I see the potential of this card, but I'm not sure if this potential is going to be able to come to fruition because it needs to connect with the opponent. And I think it's going to be hard making it connect and drawing a card, because obviously people block Ophidians. And then I guess that the Genie Windseer is going to be a solid 4-drop 3/3 flyer, very serviceable. And if you have some die rolling synergies, it does a bit extra, so that's fine.
It's funny how you like the Frost
yeah.
Giant with the Fly Enchantment, but not the Soul Knife Spy with the Fly Enchantment.
Which Flying Shaman? Oh,
the Fly, right?
Yeah.
So you mentioned
but I mean,
for the Frost Giant, but I think that's even better with the Spy, right?
No, because the Spy dies from everything.
Okay.
This one has Ward 3 and is like gigantic in the back. I mean, nothing kills it, and if it kills it, it costs like 12 mana or something.
That's fair. A bit of a
I mean,
bit of a worst case scenario line of thought there, but
yeah.
I get it.
But this is also the most common scenario line of thought. And the point is that the giant I can probably squeeze out on turn 4 with some treasure synergies, and that basically stops any aggro in their tracks. So
Yeah. So my thought for Soul Knife Spy is I think it'll be better than you're looking at it right now, because I think a lot of I think a lot of the decks in this format will want to be more aggressive, want to be attacking, or like racing, things like that. And if you're forcing your opponent to leave behind a blocker with Soul Knife Spy, you are getting value out of that. Even if you can't get in, the fact that they're like incentivized not to attack is some value. Then you have like Scion of Stygia to like help force the spy through anyways. So I don't know. I'm still a bit iffy on the card. Like I don't necessarily. I could see it being Blue's top common, but I don't have it there right now. It's certainly powerful, and it's certainly better than like if it were a 3-mana 1/3 like we usually see.
No, yeah, of course. No. I think that maybe I sounded a bit more depressing than I actually am. But I know that some people are saying this is a top common. I don't buy that narrative. I think I'm more than where you are, than more than where you think I am. So
that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
Dimir that does have like a ton of ways to make your creature hard to block. So
Yeah, that's true.
and one thing about the Scion. So the Scion, I was thinking like if you compare with Frostlings, right? So it's actually, I feel like it's better than Frostling a lot of the times, because normally when you play Frostling, you play on your turn, you tap down their thing. So if you are on the offense, you play it on your turn and you attack. And I think when you are offensive, it's not as good because there's a fail case. But for defense, it's pretty much the same, because instead of playing it on your turn, you just play it on their turn, and then you tap it down. So it's the same as Frostling. It's one attack.
Yeah. No. If you win the coin flip, basically it becomes even better because it blocks the creature for 2 combat stages. Basically, that's what you mean.
Yes.
I think there's also quite some synergy between the spy and the Scion, right?
Yeah.
Like your
Yeah,
opponent leaving a blocker back, you signing, and tapping that blocker, and then attacking with spy.
Yeah. Jason mentioned there's plenty of ways of smuggling the spy through in black, especially. There's additional couple of things that I'm moderately excited about. It's just that I'm worried that once you're doing it and you're playing against some kind of a white-red-green deck, they just have such a clock that you might be doing those cute things and chipping them for 3 and drop them to 9. But you're at minus 17 in the middle, and you have probably cards in your hand. But yeah.
Yeah, ideally you would want some like defensive speed to go with that, like Scion. But I don't know whether that's enough. Like I think there is a like cute like tempo-y package between like Pixie Guide, Scion, Bar the Gate, Soul Knife Spy, and like Rhyme Shield, Frost Giant like as like a big blocker. But I'm just not sure how that'll line up with the format.
Maybe we don't get it, but maybe the blue decks start with the 1-mana 0/4 wall, and that's how they win.
Maybe. Let's dive into black. Okay, solid removal to start off with, right? Anyone wants to take this one? Go ahead. Feel free.
I guess I'll take this one. But yeah, we there's 2 pretty solid removal spells: Precipitous Drop, Grim Bounty. Drop especially seems like really good. It removes a creature early and ventures, and late once you've completed a dungeon, it removes like basically anything except like the really large stuff. And it still ventures. Like it just seems kind of 2-for-1-y. Like 3 mana isn't like that cheap, but I think it's like it's still a really good rate for the effect. Grim Bounty. On one hand, like, you know, the 2 black removal spells haven't been very good recently. You think Feed the Serpent, think Mage Hunter's Onslaught was like fine, but like kind of medium. I do think this making a treasure is one of the is a pretty good effect because it does help ramp you. Like I'm thinking like turn 4, play Grim Bounty, kill their thing. Turn 5, use your treasure to ramp to the 7/6 that gains 3, and that helps stabilize you or something. So we'll see. I'm not completely sure about that one. I could see it ranging from like pretty good to like mediocre. The commons I'm most excited about in black, not as a like I like these the best, but I like this synergy package. Just like it speaks to me. I don't know. Is like Deadly Dispute and Shambling Ghast. Shambling Ghast is a 1/1. When it dies, you either make a treasure or give something -1/-1. And Deadly Dispute, 2 mana, village rights, basically sacrifice an artifact or creature to draw 2 cards, and you also make a treasure. So if you go turn 1 Ghast, turn 2 Dispute, sack the Ghast, you've spent 2 cards, you've drawn 2 cards, and you've made 2 treasures. And that seems pretty strong to me. You can also use it to like snipe off an X1. Like there's a couple 3/1s running around. And like it seems like one of the black seems to be lacking on early plays other than Shambling Ghast, which makes me like the card better. Another card that looks generically strong, but like I think people might be overrating it, is Hired Hexblade. It's a 2-mana 2/2. If you cast it with a treasure, then it draws you a card and loses you a life when it enters. So like obviously like we've seen things like Phyrexian Rager before be pretty strong, where it's just like a 2/2 that replaces itself, and this looks like that. But my worry is that it's not really a 2/2. It's like not really a 2-mana play, right? Like if you play on 2, it's just a bear. It didn't do anything else. And like I don't know whether you want to be using your treasures on this, whether you'll have enough treasures to be able to afford using it on this. And like once you are past turn 2, like I don't know if it's like an impactful enough play. You need to like do. I think you might need to do something to make the 2/2 more relevant. So I don't know. And then like the 2/2 Death Touch, when it deals combat damage, Venture, that seems like a pretty solid card too. Death Touch means it like trades with basically anything. There's not that much first strike in the set, and like having repeatable Venture on a blocker that on an attacker that your opponent probably doesn't want to block is pretty good. But I don't know. This card gets pretty embarrassed by the white 2/1 that draws a card and gains life when it comes into play. So I'm not completely sold on it.
Well, give it 4 attacks and it draws a card, possibly.
Sure. I mean, more. So I saw someone in a Discord comparing this to just a 3-mana 4/2, because like when you attack with it, right, you hit your opponent and you venture into Tomb of Annihilation and you deal 2 damage. And if you don't hit your opponent, then they probably block with something, and like a 4/2, it's probably going to trade.
Yeah.
Red, with some of the best comments spelled today. I know you're feeling very strongly about kicking the door, Jason, and you're doing good on the comments. Would you like to go over these one as well?
Sure. Okay. Dragonfire, 2-mana deal 3 with a bit of upside. Like obviously, just very solid removal. Hobgoblin Captain, 3/1. It's pretty easy to give it first strike as well. That's a pretty solid attacker. 3 power on a 2-drop is really important, I think, for enabling pack tactics as well. So I think this will be a key card in green-red pack tactics sets, which we'll get to. Kick in the Door is a card that I think will be underrated at first. But I've also seen many people say that they think this card will be underrated at first. So maybe it won't be underrated. Who knows?
Maybe it'll be overrated at first.
Yeah. But like it's kind of similar to Guiding Voice or First Day of Class, right? You put a counter on something for 1 mana and it gains haste, and you venture. So like the comparison to Guiding Voice, you gain haste, but like venture is probably worse than learn. Comparison to First Day Class, it costs 1 less. But venture is probably worse than learn. So I don't know. It compares to those cards, and those cards were pretty good in Strixhaven. And I think like for a demonstration of the power of this card, just think turn 2, play Hobgoblin Captain, 3/1. Turn 3, you play the green 2/2 with Pack Tactics. When you trigger Pack Tactics, it grows. Then you play Kick in the Door on your 2/2 to make it a 3/3. Then you attack with both your 3/1 and your 3/3. Your 3/3 grows to a 4/4, and your 3/1 gains first strike. So now on turn 3, you're attacking with 7 power, like a 3/1 first strike and a 4/4, and you ventured. So I think that at the very least makes Kick in the Door like pretty explosive when it works. And also just like 1 mana is pretty easy to fit anywhere along your curve to like just boost a creature. Boots of Speed. One of the few ways this set power creeps Eldraine. We saw this in Eldraine at 2 mana. This is now 1 mana. Seems pretty decent, like a pretty decent equipment for the equipment deck. Very cheap to equip. Haste is pretty powerful. if you remember, like in Kaldheim, Rune of Speed on an equipment was pretty scary. But yeah, I think it'll just be a solid role player. Valor Singer, it's basically a 3/3, except it similar to how Combat Professor was a 3/3. It can distribute it.
I mean, this is basically Combat Assistant Professor, isn't it?
Sure. I think not having Vigilance and not having Flying is obviously pretty big, but it's 3 mana instead of 4. I doubt it'll be nearly as good as Combat Professor was, but I do think the virtual haste on the on the 1 point of power, plus it letting you enable hack tactics more easily, I think will make it pretty good. We'll have to see how it plays out, but I think this will be pretty solid. At least as a 3/3 on attacks is already pretty solid. Plundering Barbarian, 2/2. There's a lot of equipment around, so you will actually destroy an artifact a pretty large fraction of games, I think. You can also sometimes just snipe their treasure. You can also just make a treasure, and it helps with the enabling the treasure archetype and such. I think it'll be a solid card, but might want this treasure synergy for it to truly be great. Dueling Rapier, another cheap equipment, not too much interesting about it. Attaches for free, good with the cards that really want to have an equipment on them. And you have your standard 5 mana red removal spell that does a bit to your opponent as well, like Pigment Storm or Searing Barrage. It'll probably be fine.
Yep. Last but not least, I think, green.
Or is it not the least?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I think green is the third best color. Maybe second.
Would they have the lowest, blue or black?
Blue, I think. I think I'm on blue below black.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree.
Going over these quickly, I think Null Hunter is a very solid 2-drop. Jason already described how the pack tactics can enable a 4/4 on turn 3. But outside of that, I think it's just a solid 2, great upside if you manage to attack for 6 power or more. Hill Giant Hatched Gorger, we kind of already talked about. People have been wondering whether a 7/6 gaining 3 life is better than a 6/6 gaining 4 life. I think we're splitting hairs there. I think this is just solid top end, solid late game beater, and it also stops any aggro deck from running you over, basically. You Find a Cursed Idol is a very solid modal card. Jason already described the created treasure venture on turn 2, and then using that treasure turn 3 to run out some sick 4-drop that is going to get in. But I also like the destroy target enchantment effect. I think I'm a bit higher on that than most of the others here, but I just really like having that available in best of 1 and also main deck in best of 3. I think
it also kills equipment, artifacts.
Yeah, it does, actually. I think that's what makes this card even better than the white 2-drop. The fact that it has the artifact clock. I don't think the white 1/3 has the artifact clock, does it?
No,
it gains life. Gain 3 life, destroy an enchantment, and I forgot what the last one was.
Remove something from the graveyard. Remove exiles from graveyard. Yeah.
But given the amount of artifacts running around, the amount of equipment, I think this is a very main deckable effect. Owlbear feels like the new Packmate to me. I mean, yeah, no people, no. Okay.
I mean, the strength of if you could foretell it on turn 2, I would say yes, because that was the main power of the Packmate.
Imagine foretell this on turn 2, play it on turn 3. That sounds disgusting.
Oh no, I don't want to live in that world. No.
No, but honestly, 5 mana 4/4 trample draw card. That's
well,
really,
yeah, but I mean,
it's
great. I mean, it's great, but I mean, the Packmate's amazing power was that it basically stopped you from having a non-games. If you had 3 Packmates in your decks, you took a 2-lander every single time, and you every single time got to your lands because of the Packmate.
No, I agree. Packmate, we were basically first picking out of most packs. Owlbear, you'll definitely not first pick out of most packs, but I think it's definitely one of the better green commons, right? I think.
Oh yeah. No, just Packmate was probably one of the better green commons in the history of green commons in limited environments.
Owlbear is not there, but Owlbear is solid. It's
I love it. I love it. I also think that four is quite important for the pack tactics decks, because 4 power means that any single pack tactics cards that exists in Magic the Gathering gives 6 together with 4.
May I raise you the 0 in Kobold at rare?
Oh, damn it. Any playable in limited environment pack tactics card.
Find a pet. I'm not really sure. Like, it definitely has a home in the blue-green ramp deck. It's cute that you can untap the land that you enchanted, and that way, like, ramp quite a bit. How high do you guys pick this card? Like,
I'm also
So,
not completely sold on it, but I think the ramp will be like. It seems really nice to curve into Owlbear or Herd Orchard, is mostly my thought. So
yeah,
I don't
so-
know.
I mean, I think that the problem with this card is that there is a lot of incidental enchantment removal in the format, and I would be scared playing tapping out to play this and then just like getting straight savaged by a random 1/3 creature that they were keeping for later just to get a lot of life gain trigger, and they can destroy my enchantment, or by the you find the cursed idol. Because that's going to be it's going to be a pattern that will happen a lot. So if I see after the first couple of weeks that people are not keen on putting those incidental enchantment removals in their decks, I'm all in for that kind of stuff. If I'm in a deck that actually does it.
I think you won't get 2 punch though, right? Like you already got your venture trigger. They can't
Yeah.
prevent that. And like if they use like you find the cursed idol, it's like they're going down on card advantage, honestly, because you got the venture trigger. If they make a 1/3, well, it's like their 1/3 versus your venture. It's like not that bad.
true. Yeah.
Plus, I lost like a 3 mana turn, and they lost like a half a 4 mana
That's
turn.
fair. That's fair. Maybe you double spell with us on turn 4 then.
Oh, that's true. That if that's the case, then maybe it's the also sequencing of the card. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think inspiring.
I think that my green decks want to play 2-drop, 2-drop, kick the door, 2-drop, burn spell, done.
So
That's the sort of sequence I want to do. There is no space in it for ramping because
fine with that,
I'm
no.
focused on killing.
I'm also higher on the green kill your opponent decks than the green get dirtily decks, but who knows? Maybe.
And yet you didn't put the 3 mana 4/2 as one of the key creatures in green.
It's true. Maybe to wrap this up, Aspiring Bard I think is a solid card for the Pack Tactics deck. I think that's why we mostly put it here, right? The +2/+. Very good ETB.
Yeah. Also, sometimes gain 3. Like sometimes that's just what you want
Yeah.
if you're being defensive. So I think it's a solid card. Nothing too special. Maybe the 4/2 is better, but I don't know.
Okay, I think it's archetype time. Starting off with Simic. Max, you want to take this away?
So I'm going to... Sure. So Simic, I think, is like the most conventional thing. There's no like special like mechanics for the Simic. Just like doing Simic things, right? You can the signpost uncommons is going to reward you for having a lot of mana. You can draw cards and play lands. So I think the plan is as usual. You want to put down some blockers. You want to ramp, and you have to draw cards because you have to play. Keep your hand filled up and find your payoff. So I like Wizard class here because it is a card draw and ramp payoff in one. So even if you got this enchanted, you still get like at least you can use level 2 as a slightly worse divination.
Yep.
Yeah.
What did
Okay,
you
so
build
I think
here?
I may be a little bit behind. So so the build here I'm not like totally sold. I think I was missing some cards when I was looking at this one. Instead of like find the path, maybe one of them should be or the modal spell that grabs 2 lands, and I think maybe there should be one more removal instead of a card draw. But basically, like you have some blockers. The new legendary can actually block, which is nice. and then some payoffs for like getting to a lot of mana. And I think if you can get the ones that like the uncommon model card that finds 2 lands, then it actually can find non-forest. So you could potentially maybe splash like different colors of dragons, and this would be the deck that I would want to play the Tiamat, the dragon queen, I think.
Yeah.
Because you can like get the 2 other colors and then make a treasure and you can cast the dragons. And if you don't get it, you still have other like big dragons and big payoffs to play. Yeah. And I think that is it. Like there's not much special to this archetype.
So blockers, ramp, big payoffs. That's Simic for you.
Yeah.
Okay. Dive into the next one. Let's dive into Golgari.
Yeah, so Golgari, all the like uncommon, like the signpost uncommon legend and like a bunch of uncommons say, oh, you should care about things dying. But I think that's mostly a trap. Specifically, like the uncommon legend looks pretty bad to me, and I don't think there's that much support. So instead, when I was building this archetype, I kind of just built it similar to Simic, except you're ramping here with treasures in black. So you have, like I mentioned earlier, Grim Bounty, the kill spell. You can like cast that on 4 and curve that into casting Herd Gorger on 5. And there's like Find the Path, obviously, for ramp and green, but also there's like Deadly Dispute, the like Village Rights plus make a treasure. There's the Shambling Gas. There's that synergy I talked about where like you could go turn 1 Shambling Gas, turn 2 Deadly Dispute, turn 3 cast an Owlbear even. So you can also, because you have this, if you have this package of having like Deadly Dispute, you could also more reliably play Purple Worm. That's an uncommon like 8/7 for 5. Or sorry, 8/7 for 7 that costs 5 if the creature died. And it also has like Ward 3 or something.
Yeah, did I misread that card, or can you also cast it for 3? You can, right? If 2 creatures die, you cast it for 3.
I'm not sure. Can you go to the next slide?
Yeah, definitely. It's
on the next
there,
slide.
right? Yeah, here it is. The spell costs 2 less to cast. Oh no, it's if a creature died this turn.
Okay, yeah.
Unfortunate. A bit less.
Yeah, so I was imagining something that looks kind of like this.
Oh, you want to go through this side? Yeah, sure.
Yeah, if you have a bunch of treasure, you could use a Hired Hexblade as well, and maybe you have some more cards that, like, if you have a lot of Deadly Disputes, you can use the 2/2 body for like as fodder to sack to that as well. I'm not exactly sure if this will work out because like there isn't there isn't too much specific support for this, because like it looked like the specific build arounds that they were trying to get you to build around were like, oh, have a creature die this turn. Morbid, roughly. But I think this is probably a better way to go. Unsure.
Yeah, like it was similar in Strixhaven, right? Where eventually Witherbloom turned out to be like a bit of Quandrix. Just ramping, playing good cards, basically.
Yeah, it also had Strixhaven also had like a bit of beatdown Witherbloom, and I don't know if that's reasonable here either. But yeah, like it doesn't seem like there's anything special about Golgari here. Just like play the good cards, I guess.
Yep. Okay. Sweet. Any standout cards you want to mention? I think you.
I think I basically already mentioned them.
Yeah.
You ramp with treasure and Find the Path, and your payoffs are, big things. You can also splash. I think Golgari is also the best place to splash, because of all of the treasure.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, Dimir.
Yep. Let me see. Yeah. So the theme of Dimir is connecting with combat damage. So to support this, there's a lot of cards that make your creatures hard to block or unblockable. So for example, there's a equipment that makes your creature unblockable if its power is less than 3. there's a couple of creatures that signpost uncommon with that ability. There's the flying equipment, and there are just a bunch of creatures with that touch that only turns on that turn on attack. So it is disincentivizes your opponents for blocking, but it doesn't do much when you use it as a blocker. So the problem I think with this is your creatures are all pretty small. They are good on attacking, but they are not very good at blocking. So you have to find a way to like run the offense kind of, right? So there's a couple of cards that I think is going to be pretty important. The best one is probably the talisman that drains 2 when you attack, and so if you can give this to like just any creature, it's like, yeah, you are gaining like have a 2 power life thing on it. And then the shambling class I think is good here because it can punish the X1s or X2s. And then the Scion as a more of a defensive thing, and then maybe even the Seal for War. So I also think like because a lot of your cards are going to give you a venture trigger, because like there are cards that venture on attack, there are cards that venture you deal damage. Maybe like the 4/4 that is actually a way for you to get a big blocker in the mid game, because a lot of your cards be cheap, and you're also going to, if you have the like the 3/4 rook that draws your card, like you can afford to discard 1 or 2 cards maybe. And later in the game, and if your shambling card is still around, you don't mind really sacrificing it. So maybe that's one way to get extra like value from all these mentor triggers. Not really sure. And then yeah, I think the last one is maybe in this archetype you want removal that can deal with larger creatures, because smaller creatures you can maybe trade off your 2 ones, but larger ones you do have no ways to deal with them other than these kill spells. Maybe we can take a look at the archetype.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so here, yeah, I think it's not much special. I just put 1 creature of each type in because I'm not sure which one's better. It's hard to evaluate. And then at the higher top end, there's the creature that makes a spider when it connects.
the
I think it
Drider.
would be quite clear. Yeah, the Drider. And then the last one is just some extra reach or like racing, like the life gain. If you have mana to activate the hero, then you could use that as a way to kill your opponent at the end.
That
So-
card reminds me a lot of the 2/3 flyer in Strixhaven. Very
It's really
similar effect, and
Basically.
I'm sure whether it's better or worse that one.
it's probably worse, but yeah.
Yeah, 5 mana 5 mana 4/4 body seems worse.
Then the 4 mana 2/3 flyer.
Right.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fair. That's,
Also, like with that kind of drain ability, I think you want an evasive body more. So yeah.
that's fair.
Oh yeah, I also put the Grim Vendor here. Not sure if that's a good idea. So I was thinking like you have these small blockers that would probably die, and maybe you could use that as like to replace it. That's the one that like you can only play if you have a creature that died.
Oh yeah, it's the big one, right? The 4/5 or something.
5/3 or something. Yeah.
5/3. Yeah. Interesting one. I'm curious to see how that plays out.
Yeah, I'm mostly not convinced on that because I think 5/3 like doesn't trade up enough. Like I think it just trades with like a 3/1
That's
anyways. So I don't know.
It's still a good blocker.
That's fair.
And
Okay.
if you have to attack with it, you could give it evasion somehow. So maybe that's okay.
That's true. You can make
Yep.
it fly.
But yeah, for Azorius, I was thinking. So I was looking at the 2 drops in Azorius, and it looked like a lot of them were kind of tempo-y, like either flyers with Pixie Guide, or like there's 2 1/1 flyers in blue-white, or like you have Steadfast Paladin, 2/2 lifelink. So like all of this points to like maybe wanting to race. Like either you're attacking with flyers in the air and trying to race them that way by slowing them down on the ground otherwise without other than like blockers, or you're like racing with your lifelink creatures. And both of this all like lends itself to playing equipment to make your flyers bigger, to make your lifelinker bigger. So like +2 mace, delving torch might be good here, as like you want like exactly one copy of this in play to like serve as an equipment. Like not for equip synergies, but just to like enhance your creatures. Oh, also apparently I'm a bit too loud.
Yeah,
Maybe I'll try talking a bit.
Don't worry, Jason. That's who you are. We accept it.
Anyways, so like I was thinking maybe blue-white is like a Tempo Flyers deck, and there's also maybe a Adventure sub-theme. So I like the package in blue of like Pixie Guide, which makes Siam of Stygia better, which makes Bar the Gate better, and that gives you a bit of Venture. Then you have Veteran Dungeoneer is obviously a pretty good white common that helps with the venturing. And obviously the blue-white uncommon legend is also cares about venturing because it doubles up your room triggers. And so I don't have a great grasp of this archetype, but I think in general what you want to be doing is like racing and getting value or getting value off of venture. Maybe you can do both. Maybe you need to focus on one of them, but I'm not sure. The deck archetype I built, or the archetype skeleton I built, was like basically a combination of those.
Yeah, you needed tempo venture, which I liked. So
yeah, fly also seems pretty good here, like on a lifelinker. Just like get your ventures in, make your lifelinker like always connect.
Yeah, like it. Also here, I think you had some standout cards. Most of them you mentioned.
Yeah. Shoutouts to Cloister Gargoyle. I really like the card. Like it just becomes a 3/4 flying. So like it looks pretty similar to Veteran Dungeoneer, except it costs 1 less and it has flying. But you do have to complete a dungeon to make it work. So I think like that will be one of the big payoffs that draws you towards wanting to venture like at least 4 times in one game. Displacer Beast is another good thing that like serves as a blocker on the ground and gives you like venture triggers. So yeah, I don't know.
But I mean the gargoyle is not useless even when it's not 3/4 yet. I mean
that's true.
You can torch it. You can. I guess with fly it doesn't work. It has to deal an amount of damage, so 0 damage doesn't count as damage. But I mean 0/4 is also a good blocker while you wait for your completion. So I really like that card.
Yeah,
I think the only drawback is that it's an artifact. I mean that's going to be painful sometimes.
Yeah, that's fair. I think Cloister Gargoyle is one of the like one like almost like a signpost uncommon for this deck of like for what I'm imagining of like you want to get value with venture and then like kill them in the air.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty hard to have ventured 4 times at turn 4, but I think it's doable on turn 5.
Yeah.
So I think Gargoyle will most likely be your second venture, and then Dungeoneer can be your third. And then I assume some card after that gives you your 5th trigger.
Yeah, so what you could do is like Gargoyle into Dungeoneer into Fly plus another like Dungeoneer or something. Or like a Displacer Beast or something.
Yeah. So turn 4, I don't assume this attacks as a 3/4, but turn 5, I think it gets pretty likely that you're able to attack with it.
Yeah, you can also think of some other kind of ways of getting to the dungeon. I mean, I assume that Azorius is not going to be focusing on the oubliette, but if you play a couple of the counters that venture, and you don't have a creature to sacrifice, then you don't pay any cost for that, really. You just sacrifice 1 land and you almost complete the dungeon. Then you can play...
I thought Oubliette also discarded the card.
Sorry?
I thought Oubliette is like you have to discard a card as well.
Yeah. You discard a card and then you sacrifice a land, and
Okay.
artifact, and a creature. So, but basically, if you have an empty board and just the lands, you just sacrifice a land to discard something, and then you can just bring the Cloister Gargoyle as a sort of almost completed. It's just you can't have it on board when you go into that particular dungeon because it's an artifact. You always have to sacrifice, and then you still have to deal with the sacrificing creature part. So yeah.
I still think
But maybe there is a way of
but
getting
I'm-
through the dungeon on spells initially, and then completing it, and then starting to play things that get bonuses for completion.
Yeah.
That's true.
My worry is that there's not that much bonus for completion. It's like Cloister Gargoyle is like by far the best one, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I don't know.
there's the black white gold card. That's pretty decent.
And there is the 2/3 double striker.
Yeah, that you're probably not even playing. I think.
And of course the dragon rare that gives Crusade, basically. Well, not Crusade, Glorious Anthem.
To answer Steve in chat, my rough heuristic right now is that most decks that I say are venture decks are venturing through Lost Mine of Phandelver and not through Dungeon of the Mad Mage. I think Dungeon of the Mad Mage is probably going to not come up too often, and like I think aggro decks, like the aggressive decks, will want to be venturing through Tomb of Annihilation. But I think this one is one that would enter through Elmop.
Yeah. So I think since we built this slide, we changed opinions a bit, right? So now we are on rather do Lost Mine of Phandelver twice than doing Mad Mage once, right? Is basically the heuristic here.
I think that it very much depends on how you venture. Like if you venture by playing spells, then you want to play the Lost Mine because, then you get just your bonuses and you put the bonuses on the things that you played. If you venture by attacking, you probably want to go on for the Dungeon of the Mad Mage because, for instance, the Runestone Caverns, if you are untapped completely and you exile 2 cards from your library and you may play them, even if you hit 2 spells, you might be able to play them. So that's basically draw 2 cards, which would be great, for example. But you won't do that when you play a 4-mana 4/3 and you already spent 4 mana. Maybe you hit 1 land and you play this 1 land. But if you're attacking with, I don't know, the Zhuan-Ti Death Thatcher and you venture like this, or you put like the torch on a flyer and you attack with this and you venture through that, then you probably want to go through the Dungeon of Mad Mage because first of all you have more triggers because you just do it by attacking, and second of all some bonuses in the dungeon become actually better. Yeah.
Good points. I think overall Lost Mine of Phandelver has gone up in my estimation quite a bit. I think that one is pretty solid, and
for me it was the best dungeon when I saw the first time.
Okay.
I thought because of the achievability. I mean, four times venturing seems more realistic than doing it 7 times.
Yeah,
we might be corrected very quickly.
Yes. Indeed. Yeah, my first impression was that Mad Mage was more of the controlling dungeon and that Annihilation was more of the aggro dungeon and that Lost Mine of Phandelver was like lost in between those two, but I changed opinions in the past few days. Okay. But that's our short on the dungeons, Steve. So if you missed that, I hope that helps. Okay, wanna go for Gruul then?
Yeah, Gruul. The strategy for Gruul is smash. It's been for I don't know how many years, but it continues to be working. Now, basically, the signpost mechanics for Gruul is the pack tactics, which means whenever you attack with creatures that have total 6 power, you get an effect. And there are a couple of them. Null Hunter is the common one. It basically gets +1/+1 counter when you attack with creatures that in total have 6 power. Hobgoblin Captain, I think, is another key thing. It's a 3/1 that when attacks with all the creatures that attack have a 6 power, it gets first strike, which just makes it a super important, super hard to beat card without any removal. So the advantage of the archetype is a lot of good 2-drops, and a lot of those good 2-drops have 2 or 3 power, and a lot of those good 2-drops have pack tactics. So you can very quickly start activating your ability. So unlike as we talked, you probably won't complete a dungeon on turn 4. You can easily attack on turn 3 with pack tactics activated using kick in the door, for example. So yeah, I built this in possibly different way than lots of people would. I think I value quite highly one of the cards I'm going to talk about when we look at the skeleton. But basically, I think sorcery speed pump is better than usual because since the pack tactics is activated on the attacks, if you play it during the attacks, it's not going to do anything for the pack tactics. So you might as well pump first and then attack. What is it? What is that list? Is Alessandra? Oh, these are the things that. Okay, yeah. These are the things that venture, I guess. Right. So another important thing that is worth noting that except for one rubbish rare that is unplayable in limited, I assume, or maybe there is going to be a build around. All the pack tactics creatures have at least 2 power themselves, so another 4-powered creature guarantees you to activate the ability. That's why I think 4 power is going to be quite important to have as a supplement, because you won't have often situations when you can attack with 3 creatures, but attacking with 2 creatures is going to be much more frequent. So I think that the Circle of the Moon Druid is actually quite good because it's good on defense. It's a 2/4, but on an attack it becomes a 4/2, which means you can activate all your pack tactics and do itself. And I think that because you're attacking, your opponent is going to be forced blocking, even though you want to play your tricks as a sorcery speed. Playing them at instant is also going to be great, especially when they can give trample, which is the case with tricks in this format. So because your opponent is somehow incentivized to block, you can kill them with tricks, basically. Also, a good point to know is that when they kill your creature before the attacks, you don't need to attack. Therefore, it's very hard to work around the ability of the pack tactics, because they either kill it before attack, and then there is no activation, you can choose not to attack, or you attack and you get the ability triggered. And is there any ability to play with pack tactics on stack? So basically that you attack with 6 power, they kill something.
I don't think so. I'm pretty sure that when you attack, as soon as you've declared 6 powers worth of attackers, pack tactics is unstoppable up to
Exactly, yeah. Which means it's a great mechanic for you as a player and very annoying one for the opponent, because you will always have a front foot there because they have to choose either to kill something before and then you can change your decision, or they can't stop it, basically. So all of those triggers are good.
I believe this also applies to shrinking power, right? If you attack with 6 power with the creatures, and then in response your opponent gives -2, -0 to something, that won't affect it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll see how it plays out. I'm not a judge, and for a good reason.
Yeah, I'm not completely sure about this, but I saw some people were talking about it, and that was the conclusion. But also wait for release notes or something.
Right. So the archetype I built is basically a lot of creatures. First of all, I put 6 2-drops, and all of these 2-drops have pack tactics. I mean, obviously, you might get a different build of the same deck, but I chose to highlight at least the mechanics. I'm pretty sure that there is a go wide red-green deck with goblins as well, if you get the right uncommons for that. But I picked those. Then I supplemented them with things with haste, like Hulking Bugbear, because that, you play turn 2 Hobgoblin Captain, turn 3 Bugbear with haste, and you attack with the 3/3 and the 3/1 first striker. Good luck dealing with it. The Valor Slinger, or the Assistant Combat Professor. This one allows you, in some cases, to attack with 1 creature and give it enough power to activate pack tactics by itself. Because you can, just put a couple of triggers here and there, a counter on null, and all of a sudden a null can attack on its own and activate its own pack tactics and start growing and creating a problem. And when they deal with it, then you can start doing other things with the other creatures without risking them in combat, if there is a situation like that. And I put one of these 2/4 changes into 4/2, because that's again good on blocks, good on attacks. I put 2 of these Direwolf Prowlers. I don't know if the card is good. It's a 3 mana 2/2, which is not great. But for 2 mana, it gets +2/+2, and is it haste? Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, on turn 5, you can just play it as a 4/4 haste, which is good. And in other turns, you can just make it into a 4/4 and attack with another Pack Tactics creature, and then you guarantee yourself the activation. And the same Bullet is here because Bullet should be, at least how I foresee the deck, entering when the creature died and basically becoming a 4/4. So from the next turn, it will allow you to activate Pack Tactics on everything. And there are a couple of the big things with 4 power as well, just to top your curve, basically. But the important thing that might be different is that I know that Jason is high on Kick the Door. I didn't put it in here. What I put is Compel Duel. And this is the spell where target creature you control gets +3/+3, and until end of turn must be blocked. So basically the idea is that even with one creature, you play it on your 3/1, it becomes either a 6 something first striker, has to be blocked, and maybe they only have one blocker, so you play it on something, the other creatures can go through freely, and this almost guarantees that it's going to kill the creature that will be blocking it. And I think that this is going to be a very easy to get and an important trick to sort of synergize with your Pack Tactics strategies. And you only need one. Yes, I am a fan of King Harald's Revenge. Thank you for noticing. I was my probably most played card in Kaldheim, and played very successfully as well. So I killed with King Harald's Revenge in so many ways you won't even imagine. Like, best ones are of course just putting it on Finn and just attacking for lethal, because they have to put 7 blockers on it just to prevent all the damage.
I do think that this is going to be much worse than King Harold's Revenge because of the lack of trample.
Yeah, the lack of trample is a problem. But I think that also the decks in Kaldheim were not as fast as these ones can be.
That's fair.
Yeah. And also you get boost strength to add on top of that if you need to. But basically, I think that, don't get me wrong, I still think that removal is great in those type of decks. But I think that you don't have to have removal. The tricks will do the trick. And because of that, tricks are usually much easier to draft than hard removal is. You may focus on quality creatures early in the draft and then get the
last pick.
Yeah, exactly. Like I did with King's Harald's Revenges. And as one additional thing, I put a couple of the fight spells there because they would also help.
Sure.
Yeah. And I think that the card that gives +2/+2 to all your team, or tutors for a creature from top 5 cards, that's actually going to be a pretty good card exactly in this archetype. Because this, especially if you have like there's a couple of other Pack Tactics cards that make a 1/1 goblin or something.
Yep.
If you build like a small field of goblins, now this is going to be a lethal spell. And if you run out of steam, you can actually dig for a creature. Since you want to have a lot of creatures, you will most likely hit like 2 possible targets from it, and then you can pick the biggest one and then play it. So yeah, I think the card is going to be good.
Look at top 5, take any number.
Any number, yeah.
Oh, take any number.
Any
yeah.
number.
Well, yeah. There you go. I mean,
Yeah,
you want your creature density in there.
Yes. Having a lot of creatures.
Oh, it's like the one from which one was that?
Yeah,
there was a 3. Was it Ikoria that it was, or
I don't remember. But yeah, you meet in the tavern seems like very strong, either as like a finisher or like drawing more gas in a creature heavy deck.
Yeah, I agree.
I think my reservations on the +3/+3 specifically is that like, so if you want to achieve the goal of like have something attack alone for Pack Tactics, the only one it really works on is either Hobgoblin Captain, like the 3/1 first strike, in which case you're just making a 6/3 first strike that they have to block. So like it's roughly an edict that also costs like you're not doing damage with your attack. Or you're playing it on like most of the other Pack Tactics cards are actually 2 power, I've found. And I guess if you have a Null Hunter that already has a counter on it, it works. But I'm just worried that like it won't be enough to like make something attack alone with pack tactics often enough in the way that.
Well, you just need your Valor Singer.
That's fair. Valor Singer solves that problem.
I think it's just a
But yeah, I
very
mean,
solid card, especially with the captain. Like the first strike and must block is just very strong.
I mean,
Yeah, no. Also, I mean, you have to keep in mind that King Harald's Revenge very often was used. Take this key block or make them block unfavorably already, and the rest of them will have a decent attack all of a sudden. Because very often those decks will have to trade aggressively because you have more creatures than they do. So at a certain moment when you play it and you have like 1-2 blockers, that's game set match ready.
Yeah, my worry is like King Harold's Revenge worked that way partially because you also had the go wide, and there's not that much in the set to go wide. So we'll see. We'll see how it plays.
We'll see.
I see that there's I see that there is plenty of other builds possible. I just chose one that struck me because I think that Compelled Duel is a card that's not going to be valued very highly, and I think it's worth to at least think about it. But I see Gruul as one of the stronger archetypes, to be fair, and I think that there is at least 3-4 different builds that can actually get you there. And Kick the Door is definitely one of those builds that is going to be responsible for the best screenshots.
Yep. Okay, I think we covered most of the stuff here, right?
Yeah.
We can.
Yeah, including the last slide, yeah, basically.
Yes, indeed. Okay, let's move on to Rakdos.
Yeah, that's also my. I have a segment basically in the stream.
Yes, you do. This is the Sierkovitz show.
Yeah, I don't know about this. I have no idea, to be fair. I built the skeleton. I thought about it. I drafted it a couple of times on Draft Sim, which doesn't tell you much. I think that this deck has several potential avenues to work on. One of them is definitely Kalane, so the Signpost Uncommon. Hey, the Veil. That's awesome.
Welcome everybody from Phil stream. We're talking big picture Rakdos currently, and we're in the middle of a archetype breakdown show related to the new set. So welcome, enjoy, sit tight.
Yeah. So I think that like one plan is basically draft a couple of Kalane and then have a Jaded Sellsword on turn 3. A Jaded Sellsword, if you paid for it using treasure, it costs 4 mana. It's a 4/3. When you pay it using treasure, it gets haste and first strike, if I'm not mistaken. And with Kalane, it also gets a +1/+1 counter. So you basically play a 2-drop, and then on turn 3, you play a 5/4 haste first striker. And that's one of your plans. And from then on, you try to assess your dominance over the player. So that's one option, but there are other options. Like one of them will be just playing some kind of cheap cards that produce treasures, and then quite early, like turn 5, maybe dropping a 7 mana like dragon that kills something, and it's a 4/4 flyer. So you win by basically ramping yourself using the treasure synergies. And again, if you have a Kalane to do that, also the dragon becomes a 5/5. So those are the options. I don't know, maybe without talking in vacuum, can you maybe click through to this skeleton and I can walk you through what I was thinking about it. And then again, I think that there's several builds of this archetype. I propose the one that focuses on the Kalane and Jaded Sellsword, but I don't think that our skeletons are serving this archetype best because we can only have one Kalane, and probably this is the kind of thing that you want to have 2 of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So importantly, I want to have my second turn treasure in this deck. That's why I play 2 thieving tools, and I think that this might be another thing that you can do in the treasure archetype. Hey Neil, how are you doing? So thieves tools, when they enter, they produce a treasure, and when you equip it, a target creature with power 3 or less becomes unblockable, the equipped creature. So I put a couple of 2 mana creatures, 3 or less power creatures that do something on combat, because black has it from the Dimir part. So there's a couple of Horde Rubbers that will produce a treasure when they connect. There's the Shuan-Ti Fang Blade that ventures on connect, and you can make it unblockable. there is the Rust monster that if you have enough treasures, it's a 2 when it attacks, and then after blocks you can pump it to become massive, and you can even sacrifice your Thief's Book to make sure it goes through. So there are a couple of those things, and at the same time you can use the extra treasures to ramp, and I put the red dragon and the black dragon to make sure that you do it. Again, I'm absolutely not sure that this is the good build. I'm sure that there are alternative ones. I really like the Jason's idea of playing turn 1 Shambling Gust, ramping yourself on turn 2 by sacrificing it and making a treasure, and then drawing 2 cards and making in another treasure, and then on turn 3 you have 5 mana and you can do something obscene possibly. I think that also, like, we didn't put the rares, but the Rakdos rare is probably one of the better bombs you can play in the format, so that's something to think about.
Yeah,
if you can ramp this.
Interface with treasures much. It's mostly just solid, like really good card.
Yeah. No. You can ramp it early and you can just crash the whole board. No, it kills things. So.
Yeah, I don't know. I think how you build this archetype will like depend on what cards you get.
What you get. Yeah, exactly. So I for what it's worth, I think that one build that I'm going to really try to force in some stage or the other is going to be based on multiple copies of the new threaten act of treason effect, and there is the 2/1 that you can sacrifice 1 creature a turn and give it +2/+2. And I just want like 5 of those, steal things, sacrifice treasures to make them bigger, attack my opponent, and Price of Loyalty. Yeah, that's the one with Sepulcher. Yeah. I think that this is going to be a very valid build if you open like lots of Prices of Loyalty and you start wheeling them late, and then you get a couple of Sepulcher Ghouls or the Deadly Disputes to be able to sacrifice the creature post combat. And even if you still like a 4/4, you attack for 6. If you use the treasure to cast the Price of Loyalty, they have to start thinking about blocking. If they block, they probably lose 1 creature for block, and then they lose the second one because you will sacrifice it after the combat.
Yeah. Also, shoutouts to Tomb of Annihilation. If you steal, let's say you steal their 3 that ventures when it attacks, then just venture into the like second or third stage of Tomb of Annihilation, and
but you also have access to break the door here. You just steal something, attack with it, and after attack you just
kick the door,
break the door, and oubliette.
Boom. All done. Another synergy package that we didn't put on slide, but which I really like, is that Bag of Holding is at uncommon here in the set. And
Bag of Holding.
Yeah, and I think Bag of Holding is pretty decent with the red. 2 mana, 2 red, so 4 mana total. Discard 2, draw 2 spell.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's quite a cute package if you're trying to play
discard 1.
Discard 1. Make a treasure, right? Draw a card, make
2
a treasure.
treasures.
Yeah.
2 treasures.
I think that's a solid...
Discard 1.
I think there is a more slower, grindy type Rakdos deck that just removes your creatures and plays a long game and gains a lot of value with the Bag of Holding. I can see that.
I think I put that card in my skeleton. I think that discard a card, draw 2, and make 2 treasures is going to be good because it can. Or didn't I?
Yeah, it is here. It's the unexpected.
Yeah. I put it because even if you play it on turn 4, you just play like a 2-drop, 3-drop, and then you play this on turn 4. On turn 5, you can basically guarantee that you're gonna play one of the big dragons using the treasures. So yeah, it's not bad at all, I think. And I don't think that you're going to be so land needy in this deck because you make those extra treasures to use when you need extra mana. So you can actually ship a land quite easily and get 2 extra cards for that.
Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot.
Yeah, my main worry with Rakdos is I'm not sure how it lines up against being trying to be on the defensive. I think you might need to have a lot of Dragonfires and other cheap removal to do it, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, me neither.
So here I put a more mixed package of removal. I think that Magic Missile is going to be great in that archetype actually.
I'm pretty high
because
on Plundering Barbarian, honestly. I know, Jason, you were okay with the card, right? but yeah, I think it's pretty good, even outside of the treasure decks.
I mean, to be fair, if it's not super aggressive, I know that destroying the artifact is good, but why wouldn't you, for example, if you want this sort of like card to be played to destroy something, why wouldn't you play the 3 mana, deal 2 damage, and make a treasure? You have at least a treasure, you destroy something, and you stay alive for longer. You know, like especially against the green deck, you can do quite some damage early using that kind of stuff.
Sure, I like that card in this deck as well. I don't know. I do think. I do think like the ability to have artifact destruction in your main deck is like quite good. It's going to be quite good in this set, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see. Standard cards. I think we covered most of them, right? Anything you guys want to add?
Oh yeah, we had this long chat about Hexblade, and I think I totally agree with you. I think that early in the game it's just a 2/2 bear. And actually, when the card is becoming stronger is when you draw it late, because then you can basically have a thing that normally would be useless late in the game, but it at least replaces itself because you will probably have like tokens lying around to sacrifice to it to cast it.
It's a 2/2 with a huge incidental upside, right? I mean,
yeah. And again, if with Kalane it will become a 3/3 that draws a card for 2 mana. That's good.
That's very good, very good. Yeah, I don't think I think it's pretty common that you have a treasure lying around in this archetype if you build it correctly.
Yeah, but I mean the point is that you probably shouldn't be shy of playing it just as a 2/2 for nothing in the early game.
If you have no turn 2 play, you should probably just jam it, especially against a Gruul or a Boros opponent. Yeah, I agree. Okay. Now for the cool stuff. Roll a d20, Pawel. You're all about dice rolling, right?
So yeah, I love rolling my dice. Look, I have some. I brought some. These are not dice actually. These are life counters. They are not dice. Dice have to be randomized. These are not. No, I was playing some games with my daughter recently with maths, so we use d20s for that, and they don't have to be too randomized for that. But right, so I can go on my soapbox and wow, you can do that. Oh wait, what will I roll?
Very well.
That's sweet.
Yes, still got it.
Natural 1.
I get 3 damage. But as you can see, rolling dice is very easy and gives always the desired effect. But I was very worried when they put the roll d20 mechanism because I don't like random effects in my Magic games. But they did what I think is reasonable. So the baseline of those rolls is not damaging. So most of the effects that you get are you're okay with them. And everything that is above that is sort of cherry on top, and you're happy with it. And most cards are built like the one on the picture. So basically, you have a 45% chance of getting the low outcome, 50% chance of getting the middle outcome, and 5% of making something sweet. Most of them, not all of them. There are some minor differences, but that's how it works. Now, if we can go to the next one.
Yes.
Yeah. Awesome. The whole shebang with the die rolls is that when you have a deck that's tuned for rolling dice, and that includes Pixie Guide, but it's also the Barbarian class that does the same, the numbers shift quite impressively. So, for instance, when you have a Pixie Guide and in play, all of a sudden your chance of the lower outcome is like 20%, then you get 70% chance of the middle one and 10% of the top one, which is a big difference already. So so basically then you can sort of, your baseline is the middle outcome, and you might consider yourself unlucky when you got the low one, but still will happen on some cases. And I think if you have 2 Pixie Guides, you have actually higher chance of rolling a 20 than rolling 1 to 9. So that's also something to keep in mind. Yeah, that's fine. We don't have that one, but I do have the numbers in my head. It's around 10 to 15%.
Okay.
Now, the roll d20 is also going to work because you have a couple of payoffs that give the additional value to it. And well, some of them are meh, like the Brazen Dwarf. That basically is, well, you can do some incremental damage. Maybe, it's a creature that might deal like 3-4 damage over the course of the game, which is not terrible for a 1/3 for 2 mana if you don't have to chump with it. There are some that are amazing, like the Feywild Trickster is basically, if they cannot kill it and you play like 3-4 roll the dice spells or have some reproducible rolling the die effects, this just becomes a house because, even if you do it once, 3 mana for a 2/2 with 1/1 flyer is okay. If you do it twice, 3 mana 2/2 with the 2/1/1 flyers, that's just mental. So I think that it's a good payoff and worth protecting and worth playing. And I think that this card also can play in Simic because some Simic builds will have quite a lot of die rolling, I think. And actually, when you look at it, it's green that has the best reproducible die rolls because they have the vigilant creature that roll the dice, gain some life, enables the use of Feywild Trickster. And the Signpost, the Faraday, is great because 4 mana, 3/3. If you roll a die, it becomes a 3/3 menace and flyer, which is already good. And if you draw 10 or more, you draw a card. And as we saw, that even with one Fairy Guide, that gives you roughly 80% chance of drawing a card, which is great. So basically, you add cantrip to every single spell that makes you roll the die. Having said that, I think that this is one of those archetypes that we are moderately warm on before the release of the format until we realize that all the good payoffs are on uncommon level and you just won't get them that frequently. Now, it will definitely happen more frequently than it would happen in Strixhaven because there is less competition for each color pair because you have 10 color pairs, not 5. But I did a couple of those, of course, this is not the proper methodology, but I did a couple of the drafts. And now that 17 Lands also has drafts, I'm going to move to 17 Lands because obviously 17 Lands is superior in hashtag sponsored, not sponsored. Didn't get a penny from those people. Not a penny. Just all the clout I have in Magic community comes from them, but not a penny.
The maybe I can chime in. The Brazen Dwarf reminds me of I think there was a 1/3 in Kaladesh that dealt 1 when an artifact entered the battlefield.
Yeah, Reckless Fire Weaver or something?
Yeah, this reminds me of that card quite a bit. I don't see why they restricted it to just 1 damage. I don't see why you are not allowed to deal 2 if you have Pixie Guide in play. Like, I don't get that. Because I think if that was the case, that would honestly be
okay, that would be good, yeah. That would be good.
That would be real good.
And I think that,
I have no clue why
Kaladesh had multiple ways of, Kaladesh had more ways of reproducibly putting servos into play, and therefore that card was actually playable.
Yeah, it was actually
and I think that this one, realistically, you might play like 3-4 roll effects in a game before you inadvertently lose to an aggro deck that just overwhelms you on every single level.
Yeah, so this is more incremental and not something that you can actually build around, I would say.
And if you draft 5 of them, who knows? Maybe it's actually going to be enough that you stay with them in the back and then you just cast some spells, draw some cards, roll some dice, and everyone is happy.
Hey, Brazen Dwarf is how you beat a fog when you try to do Splinter Twin combo with the thing that copies creatures plus Pixie Guide.
Oh yeah. I did some maths on that one, but unfortunately I deleted the file. But I think that with 3 Pixie Guides you got I think 63% chance of succeeding and going almost infinite.
I think starting from 1 it's like 14% chance or something.
Yeah. Which is something, which is something. But okay, and Critical Hit is the kind of a card that I just think it's going to be looking okay, but in the end unplayable. Because first of all, the point is you only get it back if it's in your graveyard. So unless you chuck it in the graveyard in some other way, you need to cast it. So you probably would want to cast it early. And if you want to cast it early, it doesn't do that much. And then you have to hope that you roll a 20. So you'd rather keep it for later and actually cast it on something that, makes value, on a big creature that has 4 attack or whatnot. So I'm not sure if that is actually a payoff. But Yeah.
I saw
Can
a tweet.
you-
Like, how many games of Limited kept going after you cast a double strike spell?
Yeah,
Yeah.
either you won that game or you lost that game. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, I sometimes did it defensively in Ikoria to kill the porcupine of the opponent, but that was more or less it.
Yeah, and that card had cycling, so.
Yeah, exactly. And that card had cycling, which was a good way of putting it in the graveyard. If this one had cycling, it would be much better.
Would be much better, yeah. Okay, let's dive into your
Okay.
archetype here.
Yeah, so I filled it on the early creatures just to stay alive, and I put the Arcade Investigators as the reproducible source of rolling the dice. I don't think that they're particularly good, but they are 2-mana 2/1s, which will block the 3/1s before they start becoming a nuisance. This one, basically for 6 mana, I draw a card, and something else happens if you roll higher numbers. So I put one Barbarian class, which is the sort of aggro tint of Pixie Guide. Well, Pixie Guide is a good defensive creature. Barbarian class is whenever you roll, if you make it into a higher level, you can give +2/+0 to a creature you control. Actually, I think that Pixie Guide and Barbarian class work super well together because you play the Pixie Guide, you start Barbarian class Pixie Guide, something that rolls the dice. You make your Pixie Guide a 3/3, and you can swing with a 3/3 flyer. So it's actually not a terrible thing. I mean, obviously you need to activate the class, so it will be like later in the game. But your Pixie Guide can become a relevant threat because of that, which is useful. And all your rolls should be smoothed to give you the maximum value, or at least the higher bracket of the value.
Barbarian
Then.
class it only takes 3 mana total to get to the second level. It's not actually that expensive.
Yeah, it's not super expensive. No. But I mean, you can't just go like turn 1 class, turn 2 guide, and turn 3 roll spell. You need to do something in between, basically.
Yeah.
But it's basically this plus the cheap interaction in the Dragon's Fire, and I put one of the you come to the river, which allows you to bounce something. And that builds you to a later game when you want to start casting your roll the dice spells, basically. So you have the Scions, which are the sort of Frostlings equivalent, and in this deck they can actually be predictably a Frostlings, which, as we discussed earlier, means that you actually tap the creature for 2 turns if you play it on the right time. Then you have the Feywild Trickster, and again, the problem with this is that you have to play it early if you want to get the value, but of course if you play it early it's more exposed to the removal because the opponents didn't have anything to remove yet, so they're probably having Dragonfire burning their hand and they might kill it. But no, that's how it goes with those kind of things. And then there's a very deep 4-mana roster of cards that roll the dice, and this is partially a problem with this deck, that lots of the good payoffs are costing 4. So I put 2 of the 3/3 flyers. I put the Chaos Channeler, which sort of does what the Berserker did in Kaldheim, that basically exiles the top card, but sometimes do exile 2 top cards,
That was
and you
one
can play them.
Strixhaven as well, right? Recently, the 5-mana red creature.
Oh yeah, that
was
one. I never played it. I think I didn't play it once. I think that
you could get that card on the wheel, and I think it was pretty solid. I think it was like C plus B minus level, and it wheeled. So that
I lost to it a couple of times, but I never played it. I was never in a deck that would be using it.
Was a great top end card, I would say.
I was more into
Channeler
but you know, right? you pick your
battles, yeah. But Channeler is a great top end card for an aggro deck as well, I think.
Yeah, I think this is a good top end for the aggro deck. But in this, of course, it becomes better because you will get the thing. Yeah, what I think is a good card for this deck is the Hoarding Ogre, because if you play it and you start attacking with it, it will generate like 2 treasures every single turn, up to 3, and you can tap several things with the Scions. You can kill the blockers, so you can do a couple of attacks, and you get a couple of triggers on anything else that are related with rolling the dice. So, for instance, attacking with the Hoarding Ogre and the Faraday guarantees that Faraday will get Flying and Menace while it's in the attack before the blockers are assigned. So, you know, like a cool combo in there.
Yeah,
and that's why I think that occasionally this deck might actually want to be playing a sort of Timur version just to maximize on the roll synergies, basically. And yeah, I think that the most important card in this deck is the Contact Other Plane. It's just because this type of deck operates on number of spells that they can cast that do a particular payoff and drawing the right amount of enablers. And to do that, you draw the cards. It's basically trying to play the same way that the blue-green kicker was playing in Zendikar Rising. And the most important card in the blue-green kicker arguably was the field research because it drew your cards early, fixed your mana, made sure that you draw the gas, so you want to have as much draw as possible. That's why I think that you can also splash the green because, in some variants you might want to play the green-blue Signpost Uncommon, for example, and then use it later as a mana sink to draw more cards and replenish yourself. And then at the top end, I put the 6/6s that make your opponent sacrifice because this will be disproportionate in this particular deck. So more often than not, they will sacrifice 1 or even 2 permanents when you play it, and that stabilizes you from most attackers. And so does the actual Fireball. The Fireball should always deal 2 to them. And we'll remove quite a big creature so we can actually continue and get to more card draw and stuff. Like one side note is that not all the cards are perfectly balanced. I thought that they did a decent job with most of them, but 2 of them I think that are quite tricky, and one of them is Power of Persuasion because the 20 is basically stealing their creature for a turn. Sometimes you would rather have it go on top of the library or give them a choice to go top bottom because it removes it permanently if they need to dig for an answer. While if you roll 20, they still get the answer and they still get back the creature at some stage. So that's a bit tricky. And the other one, in my tweet thread that I wrote about the archetype, I wrote that the Scion of Stygia is one of those because you don't always get the Frostlinks effect, and that's a big difference between the tapping and doesn't untap and tapping and tapping. But after second thoughts, it's actually the Fireball that is the spell that is tricky for me. Because if I'm on the back foot, sometimes I will cast the Fireball and die. Especially if I roll like I did in the chat, I'm going to die a lot to the Fireball that deals 2 damage to me. And this is the most risky, I think, effect in a deck that is on the back foot, because you probably can't afford to play a 5-mana kill spell that deals 2 damage to you. So you have to have your pixie guys in there.
I can't wait to roll a 50-50 chance between finishing off my opponent and killing both of us at the same time.
Ooh, nice one.
Yes.
You know what? I'm waiting for the someone on 17 lands that puts a pixie guide on the board and cracks the treasure chest and still rolls double 1s. That's 1 in 400 chance. So hopefully, with the sizes that we get in 17 lands, there might be a 1 occurrence of that.
Yes.
Okay, but I don't think people are going to play treasure chest that much, so I don't know.
Yeah, look, I mean, the die is broken.
Yeah, the die from the MTG bot is totally broken.
We do need 17 lands to keep track of the unluckiest 17 lands user.
Yes, that would be a nice.
I mean, we know that it's LSV. No, he claimed it already, and he is both the best and the most unlucky player in Magic's history.
It's
yeah, so unlucky to open those 2 mascot exhibitions.
That was just the bad luck trying to get revenge on him. He can't even complain that he's the least lucky player ever.
Yeah,
that's how unlucky he is.
Shall we move on to Selesnya?
Yep, sounds good. So Selesnya is nominally life gain, but I think that's mostly a relatively small theme. So I noticed that there's a lot of incidental life gain among top commons in green and white. So there's the priest, the 2/1 ETB gain a life, draw a card. There's the 2/2 lifelink paladin. There's the 7/6 for 6 that ETB gains 3, and If you're venturing into Mad Mage, though, I don't know how often you're going to do that. The first level does gain a life. And beyond that, there's a bunch of other like incidental life gain commons. But like what stood out to me was that like 3 of these like cards that I think are top commons just instantly gain you life. So I do think that some of the life gain payoffs, specifically the 2 uncommon ones, Trelasara, that's the white-green for a 2/2 legend, that's an Ajani's Pridemate, but also you scry one whenever you gain a life. That one will be pretty good, I think. And Lurking Roper also, that's a 2 and a green for a 4/5 that doesn't untap on your untap step, but gets untapped whenever you gain life. I think that both of those will be likely very good. Specifically the 4/5, like you can just look at it, it's just a 3 mana 4/5. You can block with it. You don't have to attack with it. And like it doesn't enter tapped or anything. Like a 4/5 blocker for 3 is like really solid stats. And if you can gain life eventually, like you can
It basically gets vigilance whenever you can gain life.
In fact, if you have enough life gain, the text becomes like upside and not downside because like it gives it vigilance too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not completely sold on the unicorn. That's the 3/2 for 3 with Ajani's Pridemate text. Like whenever you gain life, the +1/+1 counter on it. I just think like it might be too slow, but like 3 mana 3/2 isn't like that. It isn't like horrible text or stats. But like I don't think it's a reason to like try to draft like healing potions or something to like fuel your life gain. Like, you know, like most sets, you shouldn't be drafting revitalizes to fuel your life gain decks, I think. But yeah, the backup I think for Selesnya is just to play good cards in white and green, like ramp/go wide. There's a bit of that. Like Horde Gorger is Herd Gorger is a great ramp target. There's also Elterguard Ranger, the 5 mana 4/1 reach that ETB makes it 2/2. That helps you give you a bit of like go wide synergy. And also like white has a bunch of ETB value creatures that play into go wide, like the 2/1 that draws a card or the 3/4 that ventures. And there's a couple like go wide payoffs of like the white removal spell that doubles as a team pump. There's a 5 mana 4/4 in white that ETB gives your team vigilance and +1/+1. And there's the uncommon split card between like draw a bunch of creatures and +2/+2 to your team. Ramp wise, you find a cursed idol to make a treasure and venture and find the path as like just pure ramp. It mostly just feels kind of like green, white, and call time, honestly, where you're just playing like solid cards, like solid threats. There's not like too big of a cohesive theme. You might like splash with you find the curse idol and venture. But like just solid cards, green and white, are some of the best colors in the set, I think. And yeah, my archetype skeleton is mostly just like, you know, solid commons and like a few life gain payoff uncommons here and there.
Yeah, like it. Like it a lot. Okay.
Oh yeah, there's like not that much instant. Healing potion is technically instant speed life gain. It's like 1 in the white for a artifact that ETB draw a card and white tap sack gain 3.
Yeah, more expensive revitalize basically.
Yeah. I don't think that card's very good, but like.
I mean, it's literally revitalize for 3, and you can split it into.
Yeah, but there's an uncommon, for example, that lets you look at the top 5 and you can get an artifact to your hand. I think if you have one of 2 or those,
okay, yeah.
Then I start playing those more niche effects. There's this artifact that costs 1 to play out, and then I think it's tap sack, pay 5 to deal 5 or something. Like
yeah, with the die roll, I think.
Yeah, I can imagine there is a world where I have like two of the cards that get an artifact from the top 5, and then I start playing those sketchy cards just to get some more artifacts in the deck.
That sounds like
actually, Jake,
that kind of deck rather than a consistent thing. Though,
oh no, it's just a way out that you have. If your deck doesn't come together, then there are those kind of things that you can do, I would say.
I actually have a question to you, Jason, because in this particular deck, because there was a question in the chat about rally maneuver, as rally maneuver was mentioned. What do you think about this card? I think it's like a nightmare to play against in a deck that has a couple of chunky creatures.
Rally
Oh, sure,
Maneuver is the +2.
Yeah, so you give +2/+0 first strike to a creature and +0/+2 lifelink to up to one other creature. So to use it fully, you want 2 creatures in combat, and it does work best with chunky creatures where you can like give +2/+0 first strike to like a smaller creature to help it like punch up, and then +0/+2 and lifelink to like your Horde Gurger to gain a. I keep calling it a Horde Gurger. It's a Herd Gorger to make it gain a bunch of life. I still think it's mostly medium because like the fail case, like 3 mana trick and like the fail case, if you only have 1 creature in combat, you can only get the +2/+0 first strike, which is like kind of only.
Well, you have 2 Elfheart's Ranger, which basically this works fantastically with that creature, doesn't it?
That's true. That is true. I think it's probably still mostly filler level. I'm gonna start not loving it. I might try it if like it gets cast against me and it seems good. I might try it, but yeah. Oh, another thing about this deck, I think if you get like more life gain payoffs, like specifically the uncommon ones, Trelasara and Lurking Roper, I could see playing more life gain stuff like the 1/3 Cleric or like the 2/3 Vigilance, gain some amount of life when you attack. But like in general, I think the life gain is more of a like small package of your deck and not like complete focus of it.
I think a 2/3 for 3 with Vigilance is a solid card. Like the 2/3 Vigilance, half lifelink. I think that's quite a lot of value for 3 mana.
I'm worried. So it's not as good as lifelink because it doesn't like get boosted by equipment and such. It doesn't work on blocks. I'm worried that the 2/3 will have trouble like actually attacking and blocking. Like 2/3 isn't great stats.
Okay. That's fair. That's fair.
I'm on the other hand, I'm way higher on the unicorns, and not because I think that they're intrinsically powerful, but I think that it's one of those archetypes that has common payoff that is half decent. I mean, like a curve like Prosperous Innkeeper into the unicorn is not something unimaginable. And then follow it up with something that drops to creature, you are ending up with the 6/5 unicorn on turn 4, basically.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think the more innkeepers you have, the better the unicorn gets, basically.
Yeah, it's innkeepers, and I think that also the druid class I think is pretty good when you have like multiple unicorns and every land drop is basically pump your team.
Yeah, mostly I don't want to try to play cards like Druid class that don't do anything, like don't really do anything except gain life, or are like really slow to do anything except gain life.
Yep.
In order to enable unicorns, but I'm fine with playing unicorns if I already have like a bunch of like the 2/1 gain a life draw card, like 7/6 gain 3.
Yeah.
If I already have a bunch of like instant life gain, I'm fine playing unicorns, but like I don't see it as like this is busted, I need to put revitalizers in my deck.
No, exactly.
Yeah, no. The druid class does something on the top levels, doesn't it?
Yeah,
I mean, it must.
It's a big creature. It's like kind of slow though, so I don't love it.
Okay.
I can see that.
Yeah, no, it's also classes are really hard for me to evaluate. For example, because I just don't. I just don't know if I.
Incidental life gain is probably going to be better than like Itlux in the sense of like this format looks like there will be a lot of racing. So incidental life gain that just happens on cards that you're already happy to play will probably be pretty good.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's why I like the Priest of the Ancient lore. It's just like this one life is so important in this card.
Yeah. It does so much, right? Like it's a body to equip, draws you a card, gains you the life for the life gain deck. It's just very good.
Back from the graveyard in black-white also.
Yes, it's very good. Black-white will. So I think
black-white. I see that in black-white. I think that the card we didn't mention, but I think that might be actually quite good in this format is the thing that whenever your creature dies, bring it back with a +1/+1 counter. I think that that's going to be in a couple of archetypes a very, very, very formidable card.
That's
especially when you like.
Black combat.
Yeah, that's
deck, right?
one black. Yeah,
One in the black.
yeah. I think that I think it has a decent spot in black blue and black white and black red possibly when there come into play effects that you can recycle with it and increase your card for 1 mana. It's going to be quite good in the racing situations when they think they are trading, but in fact they're getting like double whammied.
Yeah, that one is pretty solid for sure.
So, shall we go into the discussion whether 1 extra power is more important than 1 extra life?
No.
Oh, come on. We have to wait for Jason anyway, as he went to the loo.
Well, we can dive into Boros, but yeah, sure. Like,
Maybe he's a secret England fan and came to celebrate the goal.
I think. So my feeling is that green is more of an. So okay, so let's say green blue. I would rather have this gain 4 life because I assume I'm under pressure if I'm Simic. But in the Gruul deck and in the Selesnya deck, I prefer the damage basically because I assume I'm more of the beatdown in a lot of the matchups. So there I prefer the 7.
I don't know. To be fair, before anyone started discussing it, I just saw the card spoiled and I thought, would I prefer the 1 life? And I answered yes, but it might be just because my love to the Lindworm and Mammoth were so great that I wanted to be a functional reprint of it.
I think it's a stronger card.
At least 6/6 would make sense because it would be like a hill giant, but twice bigger.
Yes, it's
7/6 makes 0 sense.
Yes, not only is this not a hill giant, it's also not a double hill giant, which is annoying. Yes, that I agree on. Okay, welcome back, Jason. Shall we dive into Boros?
Sure.
I think that diving into Boros is going to be a big theme for all of us in the actual draft portion of this format.
Yes.
I'm excited about Selesnya personally because that sort of playstyle speaks to me more.
Oh, interesting.
Oh no, you stay on a different flavor of Naya. Oh my god. I'm probably going to be. I swing very, very easily from Boros to Selesnya aggro. I did it in many formats, so yeah. Oh yeah, I think that Steadfast Paladin is also good for life gain synergy, by the way. I mean, just because it was not specifically mentioned.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so I think a good thing to notice is that equipment is very prevalent in this set. Most of the good equipment is red and white, so it's colored, but there's quite some uncolored equipment as well. Small creatures go up in value in an equipment deck because they're simply bodies to equip. And that's what you like in an equipment deck is small bodies that you can equip, that you can trade off against a bigger creature, and then you can re-equip the equipment to continue that line of play basically. So that's why I wanted to highlight Swarming Goblins here, for example, which is a 5 mana 4/3 that gives you on average like 1.5 Goblin token, which is just very solid. Either 2 or 3 bodies for 5 mana is just very good in an equipment deck, I would say. Yeah, if you get the right amount of 1 and 2 mana value creatures, this deck looks like a 16 land deck to me. There are some very solid 1 mana cards like Boots of Speed, for example, and just a great set of 2s. Like I think there's where we had some sets where we had a lack of good 2s. I think here, especially in Boros, there's just a platter of good 2s that we would like to play. Yeah, looking at the draft archetype, I included a lot of 1 and 2s that I would like to equip. So I think the 1/1 flyer in the form of the Ranger's Hawk is just a very good target to equip. Armory Veteran and Dwarfhold Champion are the 2 drops that that clearly pay you off for equipping it. The Armory Veteran gets Menace when you equip it, and the Dwarfhold Champion gets +0/+2 when you equip it. So just very, very solid 2 drops overall. I mean, they are the Veteran is a 2/2 vanilla base, and the Champion is a 3/1, which are already fine stats for an aggressive 2 drop. So the bonus is gravy basically. I also included Hobgoblin Captain in this, not only because I feel that this Boros deck might have a bit of a Goblin sub-team, with for example the Battlecry Goblin as a payoff for playing many Goblins, But also the captain being a first striker and being able to quite easily give it like 5 attack with the right equipment is just very good. And as Sierkovitz already mentioned, the paladin with the lifelink, equipping it is just very good in racing situations and overall just good. Valor Singer, we kind of discussed how it was an assistant professor. The +1/+0 just overall very good, and the fact that the 2/3 body is still relevant to equip is just nice. When it comes to top end in these low to the ground decks, I like my top end doing something on basically the turn that I play them, which is why I like Valor Singer, because well, the +1/+0 I can already apply that the turn it comes down, and the same goes with the Pegasus, where I can apply the +1/+1 and flying already the turn it comes down. So that's how I like my top end to be. Other top end cards are, as I mentioned, the goblins, and of course the gold card, which is insane. I think it's one of the better gold cards in the right deck.
So actually, looking at this, you didn't go for the maces and.
No, I'm not a big mace fan, honestly. So I like plate armor as a card, and I think when you have a plate armor, I think you want some more of the cheaper equipment. And I don't think you need the maces. I think you don't need your equipment to add a lot of power and toughness. I think you just want your creatures to be equipped, basically, which is why I prefer smaller equipment with smaller equipment costs than bigger equipment with bigger equip costs. That's basically my line of thought.
Yeah, I think I generically agree with that. I like +2 mace and Delver's Torch more in decks that only want like one equipment around, like to move around. In Boros, I think I like Dueling Rapier and Boots of Speed much more.
Yeah, I like the fact that Dueling Rapier is instant speed, right? So it's a trick on top of it being an equipment, which I like. Boots of Speed, yeah, just solid, right? 1 mana gives something haste repeatedly. That's just insane. I remember playing this red spell that you could get out into the grave in blue red quite a bit. I don't remember what it is. It's an instant speed.
Guild?
1 red.
It was Guild's jumpstart thing?
Yeah,
or?
jumpstart thing. Yeah. This is basically that, but then you can get it out of the graveyard infinitely, basically. Which I think is very solid. I mean, that card was constructor playable, so.
Like I said earlier, Boots of Speed is one of the few cards here that power creeps Eldraine.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's just very good. And also, again, it's just 1 mana to equip, so it gives your veteran menace, it gives your champion +0/+2, so just very solid. I included the spare dagger. I think this is actually good. This is not only is it again equip cost 1, so you can pretty easily equip a creature with it. It gives +1/+0, but also the fact that you can just snipe down a 1 toughness creature, I think is a solid side effect for an artifact to have access to in your deck. Basically, it snipes down a hawk, it snipes down a 3/1. I like it.
So how many of the signposts and commons would convince you to play a high-cost equipment?
Oh, that's a good question.
Like low-cost play, but high-cost equip. I'm thinking particularly about the 1 mana equip 5/+4 attack, I think it is.
Yes, +4/+0.
I'm not...
Because it's a cheap equipment if you have 2/3 of the
Brunor.
This guy.
Nice that like your opponent can't really prevent you, like removal doesn't prevent you from getting the first equip when you play Bruenor. So like even if they have like a Dragonfire, you can play Bruenor and immediately equip your Great Axe for 0 before they have priority to do anything.
Yeah, exactly. On the Pegasus, let's say you have now a 6/3 flyer.
Yes.
Yeah, or like a 6/2 not first strike, lifelink. My problem with the Great Axe, like the +4/+0 thing, is that it doesn't give a toughness boost, so your creature will probably trade off unless it's a flyer, I guess.
And or a Hobgoblin Captain.
Sure.
And it will be permanent.
That creature like trades off or gets removed, and your Bruenor also gets removed. then you might.
Wait. We didn't think of one thing. With Brunner, it's actually a 8/3 flyer.
Yes.
I think with Brunor, I'd still much rather be playing +2 maces, and I think in general there will be enough equipment in the set to support like you not having to dip into the like.
Yeah, the more sketchy ones, let's say. I think for example the +4/+0 one is just that's just trying to be fancy. I think there's no need to take that risk of not having a Brunor.
It's not necessarily. It's just that depending on the state of the draft, you might have to be forced to choose between quality creature and quality equipment. And if you go for quality creature because you think that your creatures are more important to you because equipment is so plentiful, you might actually go for the prioritize the creature, leave the good equipments for someone else, and then you just like scrape down the bottom of the barrel what you can get in terms of the equipment. But because you have the quality creatures, including multiple copies of the Brunner, you might still be okay because you don't pay the biggest cost of those shaky equipments, which is the equip cost that is high.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, Boots of Speed, Spare Dagger, and Dueling Rapier are all at common. I think it's very unlikely that you end up with a shortage of equipment in this set. So I would always value my good 2-drops over equipment, basically. Even over, for example, something like the Morningstar, which I think is very good. Not only getting the token, but also in like half of the cases being able to equip it for free. I mean, solid card, but I would take any of the 2-drops we have listed here over that probably.
Okay, I would definitely take the lifelink over it.
Yeah.
I guess all the 2-drops here are really good, so yeah.
Yes! I listed only the good ones, Jason.
Yeah. I mean, okay, Plate Armor is a card I'm taking over basically anything. But other than that, yes.
Yeah, Plate Armor is a fun build around as well. I think if you get that early, that might convince me to take a bit more equipment than I would normally do. Like in this deck, I'm playing 5. Normally, I would probably not do that, but since I have the Plate Armor, I think that's a fair amount.
No, I think you could stand to add like another equipment even.
Oh, you
deck.
would? Yeah.
You know, a person that didn't play 6 helms didn't truly live a life, did they?
That is true. That is true.
But yeah, Brunor and Plate Armor I have as like the best uncommons in the set currently.
Yeah, I think plate armor, once you get to the like equip for 1, is going to do some disgusting stuff.
Even equip for 3 is disgusting. I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. Like when you think that, you know, for 3 mana you basically play the Blanchwood armor or whatever, the oak something, the enchantment that gives +3/+3.
Yeah.
And here you can just like move it around for cheapsies.
NCAA is making some valid points in the chat. Okay, I'll take back my Plate Armor argument. Okay. Good
Oh,
for you
confirmed.
guys.
That's the one, Icky. Oh, Icky, I didn't
Hey,
see
Icky,
that you were
welcome.
lurking here.
And Desinov had a question regarding enchantment removal, and we think it's pretty prevalent, right? I think it was a question.
I for one thing, like there's the 1/3 for 2 in white that like does modal stuff. One of those modes is remove an enchantment. I don't think that card will be very good, but I think it'll be very easy to pick up.
Yes.
Because it's not very good.
And it's decent in the life gain deck, right? So there you probably main deck it anyways.
Yeah, I could see it. There's also the sorcery speed disenchant / treasure venture, and you find a cursed idol. I think that card is actually pretty good because the treasure plus venture mode is like real.
Yeah, agree.
There's also there's a thing in black that's like 4 black for a 6/5 with ETB. Either opponent sacrifices an enchantment or you give your team this.
Yeah,
it's enchantment.
Devourer it is, right? It's the ball thingy with the tentacles. What is that called?
Beholder. It's an eye.
Oh, it's an eye, yes. I'm so good in this fantasy lore. Yes, clearly. Okay.
Well, I mean, in my defense, I only know beholders from Heroes of Might and Magic, so
yes.
And I guess it's only loosely based on D&D. But yeah, and also you have to keep in mind that I'm probably going to play like one of those 1/3s in my white decks because I know that white and blue removal are completely based on enchantments in this. So I might find a target for it quite reproducibly, even if the card does.
White has a huge.
Oh, it has the bolt. Yeah,
the deal 5/+1/+1 on
Yeah.
the team. I think that card's pretty good. I think that's better than the enchantment removal by a decent bit.
Yeah, but it's good. But I mean, in the white decks that I want to play, at least this card doesn't have a place because my opponent is not attacking me. They are just scraping for life while trying to defend from my very very aggressive attacks.
I think we covered most of the standout cards. I mean, good creatures you want to equip, good payoffs. Yeah.
I think that especially in the build that you suggested, the Pegasus is quite good because it's weird that even though you had the build that goes very wide, you actually want to base your attacks on one creature that is sort of collecting a couple of equipments and then smashing for a lot, and giving it flying is just super important.
Yeah, and so I think the idea is not really go wide. The idea is that you're happy to trade off whatever, right? So if your opponent blocks, you're happy because you have more creatures to throw away. If your opponent does not block,
your bodies,
yeah, and if your opponent does not block, you're happy because you're getting them down to 0, basically. So yeah, whatever opponent does, you're happy.
The point is that you achieve those extra bodies. There are a couple of ways of achieving it, like in the white-red equipment decks in Kalheim. For instance, my favorite creature was the 2/1 that died into a 1/1.
Yes.
Because I had a body, it died, I got another body, I could re-equip stuff onto the other body. But here there is no such way of doing it. So you have those generate a couple of goblins here, generate a couple of... That's why I think that, particularly you hear something on watch is quite good, because at some stage you might decide, okay, I have 5 creatures, only one of them is big and equipped, they will block it probably. I might swing with everything and just pump the team and solve the problem like this.
Yeah, at the game.
And also, like the stupid goblins that are lying around are actually quite good with the Ranger's Hawk in the late game, when you can just, spending 3 mana and tapping 2 1/1s to venture is actually not a terrible deal.
Nope.
No, I like the synergies there. It's very different from my build, but I see a lot of merit in yours.
Good. Thank you, Pawel. Let's go on to the last one, shall we? The Orzhov one. I think one of the archetypes where we were the most unsure. Is that fair to say, Jason?
I think right now I'm still most unsure about like blue-black or black-red. I think I actually, after looking at Orzhov, I am like fairly confident in what it wants to do. Okay. What I think it wants to do is basically like be a venture deck that just has a bunch of ETB or like a bunch of value creatures that it recurs, right? So you have Fate's Reversal, which is 1 in the black sorcery, return a creature card from your graveyard to your hand, venture. It's like not like a great rate of a card, I think, but it is, a 1 point something for 1, right? Like, get you a creature back and get you a venture trigger. Then you have Barrow-in, the gold uncommon that like 3/3 for 4 ETB venture. When it attacks, if you've completed a dungeon, you get to reanimate a CMC 3 or less creature. And then you have basically black has a bunch of venture creatures that like encourage trading off. So there is Granty Flying Fangblade, which is 3 mana 2/2 Death Touch with when it deals combat damage to a player, you venture. So like, if you're attacking with your 2/2 Death Touch, your opponent's incentivized to trade off with it. Otherwise, you're like, getting venture triggers. And then there's Zombie Ogre, 5 mana 3/5, which is like pretty good stats, honestly. Well, not really for 5 mana.
What is the creature type of it?
It's a zombie ogre, in fact. I think there's another dragon turtle or something. Yeah,
dragon turtle. Yeah, I think it's quite cute that they managed to sneak those in.
But yeah, zombie ogre is a 5 mana 3/5, like actually decent blocker, I think, in the format. And like on your end step, if a creature died, you venture. So like the play pattern here is like, you know, you attack with your Fang Blade, they trade off with it, then you play your Ogre and say, ha, I still get to venture. So obviously, like 5 mana 3/5 venture once is not that exciting compared to, you know, the 4 mana 3/4 adventure once. But like if you can repeatedly trigger it, it'll generate some value. So like in this deck, the plan is to just play a bunch of value creatures, like the 2/1 draw card, the 3/4 venture, 2/2 death touch, like keep trading those off, getting stuff back with Fate's Reversal, like just grinding your opponent out of the game. And this might actually be a Mad Mage deck if you get like enough venture and don't care about the completion as much. Which is tough because like Barrowin does care a lot about completion. If you've completed a dungeon, then it kind of Sun Titans you when it attacks, which is really good when you have creatures like, you know, the Fang Blade at 3, Priest at 3, things like that. But like I could see you getting enough venture to go through Mad Mage possibly in this deck. Another big part of this deck is Precipitous Drop. It's the 2 in the black, -2/-2 enchantment, or that ETB ventures, and also if you've completed a dungeon, it gives -5/-5. That card's like excellent everywhere, but here, like Perfect Home, you're probably going to be completing a dungeon relatively quickly, and it helps you get to completing a dungeon. So yeah.
Yeah, like it. Okay.
So yeah, this is basically here. You know, you just have a bunch of.
I'll quickly make this a little smaller so everything is visible to the crowd.
Oh yeah, I tried to do that for most of the slides. But
no worries.
Yeah, so here you see like just a bunch of creatures that have value. Delver's Torch I think will be pretty decent in this deck as just like an equipment to like spend mana on, like turning your 3/4s into 4/5s or 3/5s into 4/6s. I think is pretty relevant, honestly. It goes well on probably your best 2-drops, Steadfast Paladin, the lifelink thing as well. One thing I noticed is this deck is kind of lowish on 2s. Maybe you just play some random ones, like random
Cleric,
3/1s or
1/3, yeah.
But maybe you can also rely on some uncommon 2s. I don't know. Or like there's the uncommon 2/1 for 1 that enters tapped and like recurs whenever you complete the dungeon. That might be good. Yeah, the plan is just complete dungeons, get value, grind. I don't know.
Sounds good.
I really like how the zombie ogre plays with the sorcery speed removal as well, or the enchantment speed removal.
Yeah. It's more awkward. It's awkward because you can't really cast a removal spell and zombie ogre on the same turn. But if it's already hopefully one weird thing about this deck is you kind of do want to be attacking so that you can go like attack, trade off, play zombie ogre. But like I don't know how realistic that is if you're going to be against like Gruul, for example. Maybe you can't attack, and then you're like strategy becomes weaker, and that's just like not a good cycle to be in. Of like because you can't attack, you're like weaker at attacking, things like that.
Okay. Standout cards. I think we covered most of them. I think you sang the praise of the Gargoyle earlier in blue-white. I think it has a similar role here, right? And the other cards we definitely touched on. That was the last archetype. Well done, kind sirs. That was quite a grind. Due to the spoiler season ending pretty late, like basically ending this morning for us here in Europe, I wasn't able to find a lot of limited content already out there. So I did find the thoughts of Nikolai Bolos, who did a draft guide and a limited set review already. The guy's a beast, basically throwing out the content that quickly. Corticals did a set overview instead of the patented set review that he does with Ethan. Alex went for a set overview this time. I think it covers quite a lot of the set. So if you're still curious for more and wanting for more after the past 2.5 hours basically, then get this as well.
Oh, is it? Alessandro pointed that the Lords of Limited did 1 hour ago something.
Sweet,
So
sweet. We weren't able to add that, Alexandro, but it's good that you mention it.
I think Just Lola Man also did a review on stream. That might be interesting.
Yeah, I saw that was happening earlier. I assume like LR will be out in the next couple days.
Definitely. Yeah, but for the past sets we had the links towards all that content already here. But yeah, as I mentioned, content is dripping out a bit slowlier this time.
No, the content is dripping out super fast, to be fair. It's the bloody Wizards that was slow.
Yeah. We are trying our best to get the content out before tomorrow, but yeah, Wizards was not helping.
Because Magic, we're the worst people in the world, Magic the Gathering players. We will just basically blame it on ourselves that we are not able to give like a complete set overview in 20 minutes because they have 3 days of delay in releasing the set.
Yes, yeah, that's was interesting. I remember you telling us on Discord, Sierkovitz, like, yeah, the full set will probably be spoiled on Monday, and we were like, oh, then we're fine. We'll do the stream on Wednesday.
Because that's when the reviews were supposed to stop, and then that was the official date. But they stopped it because of some kind of 4th of July celebration gone wrong or whatever, and like without any warning, without letting anything.
Yeah, they were busy putting money back in Worlds. I mean, who can blame them? They had their priorities right.
Unfortunately, they had to fire the whole spoiler department because, well, profits were not touched. No?
Yeah, no. Okay, cool. Thanks, guys. I mean, appreciate you being here, as always. Everyone who's still watching after all of this, thanks for being here. Make sure to give Pawel and Jason a follow on both Twitter and Twitch. They're both streaming. Check their streams out. Give them a follow. Make sure that you'll check it out if they go live with the new set. Poning noobs, basically. Yeah, good stuff.